Hey everybody, welcome to the MGF Podcast. This is episode 33 of the show with a temporary name where we talk movies, shows, games, Lego, and whatever else. Joining me as always is Tate.
Guys, do you know how awesome it is to talk about Star Wars 2 weeks in a row and have it be relevant? I mean,
Dude,
can
we
we?
can talk about Star Wars until like December 27th.
How awesome is that, Ross? And it's not like when we just get on tangents about, Clone Wars era or when we get on tangents about The Last Jedi and the future of Disney. No, this is relevant Star Wars content that's not
We
in a
do
comic
new
book.
Star Wars content every single week until the 27th. And then only like a month and a half after that, the final 12 episodes of the beloved series that started it all for me and so many others, the Clone Wars.
I mean, how incredible is that? I mean, just to be able to talk about Star Wars relevantly amongst like my peers, right? But to be able to talk about it in this sense, I mean, dude,
We've
this is a
never had
dream
before.
come true.
And for it all to actually be good.
Right?
I
Jeez, yeah,
mean,
Star Wars has been struggling since the Disney acquisition.
yeah.
And now look at it, dude, we're flourishing. We have a great game, a great new series. I'm so excited. Ross, I told you when they canceled Legends, right? I kind of dropped off Star Wars. I stopped being a Star Wars fan. But it's so
Mm,
nice to be back. It's so nice
yeah.
to embrace the new content they're putting out, dude.
I feel like Rise is going to throw the wet blanket over us again for a little bit, and we're going to have to get over that and keep enjoying what we just had with the Mandalorian and Fallen Order and Clone Wars coming up.
But we
But
get we get the Mandalorian finale um,
right,
after Rise
right,
comes out. So we'll have the equalizer.
right. So we can try to not think about Rise and however bad it'll most likely be. But so this week, finally been able to put in some more work on the Avengers Endgame project. I mean, I have been just busy every day doing things, other things. And so finally, though, this past week, I finally been able to work toward getting Ronin, of course, Hawkeye preview ready. So the first teaser will be going up possibly today. And if not today, it will be on Tuesday more than likely. So I'm really proud of the figure so far. And like I always say, what you see is really all that's complete. Whenever you see the previews or the teasers, I mean, I take the photos of the figures for the reveals like as soon as possible. Meaning his legs are still blank underneath that waist cape. He's still missing his elbow pads, and there isn't a lot of detail on the back yet. And I have to paint the detail on the sword sheath and the arrow quiver. I have to make the bow. I don't even know if I would say he's even halfway done in this photo, which is crazy.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
nuts.
mean, yeah, it's a tremendous amount of work when you're really endeavoring to make sure that you get everything right. And I mean, on top of this, I also painted Jeremy Renner's likeness on a separate head, which you can see on my Patreon page right now. But I'll be showing that in the next preview, more than likely with him and Black Widow together, which I'm really looking forward to doing. But yeah, I mean, it feels like Tate, every time I commit to a project or I commit to something, life is always trying to toss curveballs. So it even happened last year with Infinity War, right? I mean back then even well over a year ago, back in like early 2018, I had a family emergency, and then we had to move 2 weeks before the movie, and then something else happened that was big that I forgot about, and still managed to make that happen though. But then this time again, it's like giving me flashbacks. Because I mean, this past month, man, October and October was a huge curveball, and then now November has just been rough. I mean, rough, and so there hasn't been a lot of time. There hasn't been as much time as I was willing to give to working on the Endgame project, and so it's been nice to sit down and actually finally get some more painting in and get Hawkeye to the point where he is in this photo. And I really can't wait to eventually get to the point where I can do the actual showcase, right? And enjoy these next few weeks, because nobody knows what's going to happen after January 1st. Nobody knows if the FTC is going to change anything or if we all will really be screwed. So I'm just hoping that at the very least, you guys will be able to see the next Endgame showcase and be able to see the project as it culminates to its inevitable finale with all the figures. But I'm still enjoying doing it, man. I mean, there's still something so thoroughly enjoyable and satisfying about working on these figures and realizing them and making them happen and making these photos and regardless of how far away we continue to get from the movie, because of course it's not like we're going to have anything like Avengers Endgame for at least the next decade. So I mean, there really is no, the clock really isn't ticking on this project. So as much as I wanted to have it done and was more than prepared to put in the work to have it done by the end of 2019, life has just been tossing some pretty heavy curveballs, man. And so it's unlikely, but still happening, as always.
Well, hey, man. I mean, all you can do is put in, effort where you can. So you're doing a great job, dude.
Thanks, man.
We're looking forward to seeing what you come up with here. Anyway, you want to move on to the bulk of the episode?
Yeah. So, of course, this week we got Deborah Chow's episode, her first episode of The Mandalorian season 1. So The Sin, directed by her this time. Tate, I was not prepared for how good this episode is.
Yeah, spoiler alert, this is the best one so far and probably will be the best of this series. This episode,
It's possible.
I don't give many things 10 out of 10s, Ross. Like nothing. I don't think I've ever given anything a 10 out of 10. This is a 10 out of 10. Right. This is my favorite. This is Ross, this is big, but this is my favorite piece of Star Wars anything. I watched it 4 times. I never rewatch things.
Yeah, I haven't been able to sit all the way through it a second or third time or anything like, but I have rewatched the back half a couple times, just the second half of it. Dude, I mean, really, I guess we'll do no spoilers because, of course, there is a large majority of the planet doesn't have access to the series yet. So, and the spoiler, but like what Lucasfilm has been doing is basically, they start posting spoilers from the previous episode when the next one drops. So really the spoiler window, I think, for episode 3 is probably until like next Friday. But obviously other people all throughout the internet are not going to be as courteous. So of course we will not be talking spoilers right away. I'll be honest with you, there isn't a lot that I feel like we can say without spoilers, but in the little bits that I feel like I can say at least, I mean, I was so thoroughly impressed by everything they were already doing with the pilot, and then let alone that being Dave Filoni's directorial debut, and just knowing that he was behind the lens with Favreau doing that pilot, and then Rick Famuyiwa just put together such a fun episode with the second one, and it was really great, and just
Ross,
a really great time. But episode 3, man.
Yeah, I just want to say really quick, like while we're on the topic of the series, episode 3 I appreciate so much. You can pretty much though, episode 3 makes me feel like episode 2 should have never been made. I'm gonna say that right now. Like I feel like if I watch 1 to 3, that's more fulfilling for me as a viewer. Like just knowing this.
Yeah, it's problematic because you did need. Listen, man, like I totally agree. Like I think like we probably have some. I think we talked about it last week a little bit at least.
You needed that end reveal. That's the only thing you need from episode 2.
Right, and then episode 2 was really fun.
Yeah.
But it was a side mission. It was a side quest. And it's the type of thing that I feel like is okay to do in a TV series. Like if episode 2 was a part of a movie, it would have been a problem.
Oh, that's the Last Jedi syndrome.
Right. So I'm not grilling them over having a fun Jawa sandcrawler adventure in a series.
Guys, I loved it. I'm not gonna lie, I loved episode 2. I mean, that was the first reaction I sent to Ross.
Dude, I loved it too. I mean, it was a ton of fun. But I mean, the whole time I was scratching my head like, what? How does this push the story forward? It creates the and it did in 2 ways. It created the dynamic between the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, and it gave us the Force reveal for Baby Yoda. Now I feel like you could have done, and I still believe you could have done that a myriad of other ways that didn't involve a side quest with off-world Jawas and their sandcrawler and stripping the Razor Crest for parts and him having to get this egg and all these shenanigans. But I'm still not complaining about episode 2 because I mean Rick Famuyiwa still did a really great job, and it's still a ton of fun. I mean that Sandcrawler sequence. I mean, dude, as a Star Wars fan, I mean my itch to see a bit more of the Jawas has been fully scratched.
Oh yeah,
I'm good.
I'm definitely good. I do not need to hear any more Suka Suka. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that was everything that I think I ever wanted out of like seeing a bit more of the Jawas, and so that was episode 2 was great. But yeah, man, I think, but also at the same time, you if you could cut episode 2 totally out and still have it flow,
Absolutely. I
and
feel
do
like
those reveals some other way, like with Baby Yoda using the Force and creating their dynamic some other way.
right. I want to add really quick as we're as we're on the topic here. Episode 2 was very much a palate cleanser episode. I feel like it would have been better as episode 3, if that makes sense. It would have been better to have the antics after because, guys, this isn't a spoiler, but episode 3 is extremely, extremely heavy. It is a very dark, heavy episode. So having a palate cleanser episode like 2, I think it's kind of nice because it kind of subverts your expectations moving into episode 3, but I also think it would have been better if it had followed up episode 3, if it was that palate cleanser afterward. If that makes sense. Yeah.
That's fair.
But anyway.
I don't know. I mean, part of me like wants them to continue to preserve the momentum. And I wonder if they're going to follow a format where it's major like heavy narrative episode and then a fun episode, and then do this back and forth.
I love that, dude. It's Star Wars. That's perfect Star Wars right there.
Yeah, I don't think they'll follow a formula like that. I really don't. But I mean, I have a feeling there's probably going to be at least one or maybe even 2 more of these episodes are going to be fun and lighthearted.
And that's fine because, guys, at the end of the day, we're talking about a sci-fi movie or a sci-fi franchise that has space wizards fighting off alien species. Like, this is camp. This is camp.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's totally fine to have a lighthearted episode.
Yeah, so I'm certainly looking forward to Rick Famuyiwa's next episode. I believe, I want to say he's got episode 6, I believe is his next episode, so that'll be great. But this episode, Deborah Chow's episode, my God. Listen, man. So again, no spoilers, but the whole time I'm watching it, it's so incredibly well shot. It is easily the best shot of all 3 episodes.
Oh yeah, it's stunning. It is the cinematography is stunning.
Oh my God, especially the final couple of sequences. And so then there's that, and then Deborah Chow is directing, I believe, the entirety of next year's Obi-Wan series. And oh man,
we're in good hands. We're in good hands, boys.
Yeah, I hope they get a writer who's worthy of this woman and her directing capabilities, because what an episode.
Do you know what else she's worked on?
Jessica Jones.
Okay.
I know she did a few episodes for that. But yeah, I mean, she is. This was incredible to watch,
dude. This is the perfect. If you are a Star Wars fan, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, I mean, this is about as Star Wars as you can get. And what I mean by that is you are exploring 3 different factions through the episode. You're exploring 3 factions, their dynamics with each other. You're on an alien planet with an alien society who are doing alien things. It is incredible. I really want to move into spoilers so I can talk about the dynamic, because I feel like nobody on the show, we like to talk about things that nobody's really talked about. That's just kind of people Ross and I are. I feel like nobody's really talked about the 3 guild dynamic, and I'd really love to dive into that. But anyway, I mean, it's absolute Star Wars bliss. I mean, it really is. There's politics in this episode. There's action in this episode. There are high stakes. There's also a bit of humor in this episode. There's a bunch of lore that's dropped in this episode. I don't know how they packed it into 30 minutes.
Has everything. I mean, if you want to show people, like this episode is like, I think, the perfect package that could represent the series to anyone.
Dude, this represents Star Wars to me. I mean, there's no Jedi, but jeez.
Right. I mean, so the episode, I guess we'll shift into the spoilers now, because there really isn't a lot we can say without talking spoilers, other than obviously commending everyone involved, and especially Deborah Chow. And
guys, just in closing for this non-spoiler section, please watch this show if you can. I mean, start your free trial. Honestly, it's $7. I will.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would almost encourage somebody to wait until the 27th of December to do it so they can watch it in full. But at the same time, you're going to get spoiled before then.
guys, just spend $7. So just wait until next week's episode. Buy your 1 month in December so you can watch the whole series. That would be my recommendation. You don't want to get left behind with this one. I mean, this is the best Star Wars anything we've gotten.
It is only like $7. I mean, it's if you're in a region where it's accepted, or if you can, I don't know if you can maybe set up your VPN to get Disney Plus. Yeah. It's worth it, man.
But anyway, guys, so we're going to be talking Fallen Order, non-spoilers, and spoilers after this conversation. So if you don't want to be spoiled for Mandalorian, but you do want to see the podcast, just keep an eye out. I have no idea how long this conversation is going to go. We don't script anything here. But the graphic will be changed to a Fallen Order slide. So hop in later, see if there's a Fallen Order slide. And yeah, so we're going to move on to spoiler section.
All right. So that's your spoiler warning for episode 3 of The Mandalorian. Now, the episode opens, and I knew that he was going to drop Baby Yoda. I really had no doubt in my mind that he was going to do it. So this all kind of played out a little predictably, like the first half. So I fully expected him to do it, and then probably have those regrets and maybe go back.
Ross, I really thought that they were going to extend it out to be the 6th episode or something. He would go deliver Baby Yoda. So I'm really glad that's not the case.
Oh yeah, that would have been a bummer, man, if they dragged that out and that was the whole main narrative
right?
for the season.
Yeah, dude.
That Baby Yoda back and just constantly thrown off.
I was so absolutely worried, especially with episode 2 being the Jawa thing. I was like, okay, so now the Trandoshans are gonna abduct him. Right, and then he has to, I thought it was going to be a constant fight to get Baby Yoda back to the Imperials. It's not. So that's excellent.
Yeah.
That is really excellent. I thought it was great that they just cut the bullshit and say, no, he's going to bring Baby Yoda in. That was excellent.
And I love how Baby Yoda is able to sense that something is wrong. Like suddenly they're not as tight as they've been for the last couple days, and he's walking Baby Yoda to be handed off. He's turning him in and delivering him to the Imperial Remnant, the client, and you can see the fear on that little animatronic, man. I mean, it's very present.
Oh yeah. I do want to add too, during that scene where you do see Lego Yoda freak out and it goes into the handheld camera, you get to see this. What's up?
Say Lego Yoda.
Did I say Lego Yoda?
I don't know. I think you might have.
Oh, I'm super delirious. Well, okay. Baby Yoda. Lego Yoda. You get to see the society that we do not live in, but the aliens live in. No, but you get to see the streets of this alien marketplace, and you really get that low perspective. You see some Jawa that are draped in black cloaks. I think you see a couple Twi'lek prostitutes walking through the streets. You see a bunch of different vendors. It's just, like in episode 1, you see this as well, but seeing it from Lego Yoda's perspective, the very short-standing Lego Yoda that's only 2 inches tall. No, but seeing it from the small perspective is great. It gives you a sense of perspective of how big the street is, about how bustling the society is. I thought that was great. I know it's a small detail, but
yeah, no, I appreciated it. I mean, that just that walk back to the Imperial Remnant was unnerving from Baby Yoda's perspective.
Absolutely.
And when he, of course, finally does turn him in. And by the way, dude, I just gotta discuss as they're walking back. I mean, the CG ships just look glorious.
They look good.
The town just looks divine. I mean, it just, my God, I mean, it is just so well shot and well edited. It's just unbelievable.
Where did we go wrong with the movies? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is incredible. This is a bustling, living Star Wars universe. Why haven't we gotten this in $200 million blockbusters?
Yeah, I mean, it is shocking how it almost feels like The Mandalorian is operating higher budget at times.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah.
because I mean that Baby Yoda is impressive. I believe it is an animatronic a lot of the time, if I'm not mistaken.
Unfortunately, the screen cap we have up is CGI. You can tell just by looking at it, but
Oh yeah, he's definitely not real the whole time, but I'm pretty sure they've got an animatronic for the shot.
absolutely, you can definitely tell, dude. There's some twitches that very not CG, but
Right. Um, but yeah, and I mean he delivers Lego Yoda, and it's revealed that the Mandalorian the reason the Mandalorian had trouble getting Baby Yoda was because they had given what are they, the little blinking devices? The name is escaping me. It's a very basic name.
it's like beepers or something.
Yeah, little detectors. What are they called? Uh, yeah. Anyway, those little the little Baby
Bounty
Yoda detectors.
sticks.
They were given out to all of them. So I believe it was that might have given IG-11 his, and then all the other bounty laws like the Trandoshans theirs, and basically they didn't just sick the Mandalorian on like Yoda. They sent everybody after him,
And you know what's great? So this ties into what I was saying earlier about the dynamic of the guilds. So now that we're in the spoiler section, I'm going to say the three guilds. You have the Mandalorians, you have the Imperials, and you have the Bounty Hunting Guild. Those are the three guilds. The dynamic is excellent. The Imperials hire the Bounty Hunting Guild. The Bounty Hunting Guild is internally pissed off that one man got the bounty. That this man always gets the bounty. Now, what's great about our Mandalorian character is that at his core, he is a Mandalorian. He's part of that guild, but he's facading and is part of this bounty hunting guild for self-preservation. Right?
Right.
So he's an outsider within this guild, so everybody's upset about that.
Yeah, like you can always tell the Mandalorian he's begrudgingly playing by the rules, and I imagine he's done that his whole life. Well, but when he delivers Baby Yoda, you don't really get any reveals as far as why they want Baby Yoda, but he does ask them, "What do you plan to do with it?" And then the client is all thrown off, like basically, "You're not supposed to ask those questions. You're getting paid. Shut up." Um, but I was shocked by just how much Beskar metal he was being paid for this. I mean,
Jesus.
he got like one little slab as a down payment, and then he's just getting handed 2 stacks in the ice cream maker from Empire Strikes Back, and I'm like, whoa,
Dude, okay. When his full set of armor is revealed, I was like, dude, that's kind of ridiculous. You know what I mean? It was kind of overdoing it. Like how much more?
it's all just straight silver. He hasn't painted it yet.
Like how much more badass can he get? Like a jetpack is not going to add much. So I almost feel like they should have.
Like royalty now.
Right? I feel like they should have just given him the chest piece and like made him work for the rest. But dude, seeing him in that full Beskar.
Donate the rest to future generations. I mean, he does. When you get to that scene, he does say reserve some for Foundling.
No, but my point is, like, dude, I would have loved to see him like slowly gain the full set of Beskar over the series, but to see him in episode 3 with all of the Beskar, that's insane. That's nuts. That's crazy.
I wasn't expecting to go full silver Beskar this soon.
Yeah, dude, it was insane. Oh my gosh. And okay, another guild dynamic. Since we're talking about this scene, you have the dynamic between Paz Vizsla and our Mandalorian. The whole the honor of the Mandalorians. Don't work with the enemy that wiped out our people. I mean,
the dynamic they created was incredible. And first of all, I wasn't actually expecting them to show us all the Mandalorians in that scene this soon. Like I figured he was just going to pass by them again, and they weren't going to do anything or say anything. When they started doing the close-ups, I was like, "Oh, they're getting involved now. They're coming into the room. Like he's getting their attention with all this Beskar." And yeah, man, I love the big hulking Mandalorian. I already knew about this Mandalorian because I showed you the deluxe Black Series figure of him that was revealed and leaked way before this episode came out. So I already knew what he was going to look like, but my God, does he look cool! And he's voiced by Jon Favreau himself, which is even better. And Jon Favreau I think Jon Favreau very clearly didn't want to sound like Pre Vizsla though, as he's voicing this Mando. So he's putting on this deeper guttural tone to his voice. to portray Paz Vizsla, and everybody's like, "Oh man, Vizsla," and it's like,
Spelled
calm
different.
down. It's spelled different. This is not pre-Vizsla's son or any crazy wild theories that I know. Especially I, as a Clone Wars fan, would love to jump to, but of course you have to preserve some basic logic. But Paz Vizsla, I like to think Vizsla is just kind of it's a last name that's just been adopted by Mandalorian culture because I believe the Mandalores name was Vizsla, or at the very least, at, well, at the very least, Vizsla is like the most popular house of Mandalorians, right? So anyway, cool is the guy under the suit, under the armor for this big Mando is actually the guy from the pilot, the first bearded guy that so the Mandalorians first killed.
Oh,
That
nice.
that bearded guy who's speaking another language in the first cantina is actually the guy in this Mandalorian suit.
Cool.
Um, I imagine because he's probably a stunt double more than anything. If I were to guess, I don't know. But his name is Tait Fletcher, so that's pretty cool.
Cool.
Anyway,
Uh,
Tate, just the first sequence in the pilot was already like huge for Mandalorian fans. I never thought that we were going to see, like, going into the Mandalorian before the pilot, I never thought there were going to be additional Mandalorians. There were going to
no.
be maybe one or two based on what we saw in the promo. But this whole underground base was a huge surprise. But then this scene, when they are talking
Dude.
about walking the way of the Mandalorian, and then they're saying, this is the way, and they all, I mean, they all say it at once, and you are just, bless you, you are just fully invested in the Mandalorians and their culture in such a deep way that to general audiences would see this as mostly stuff for hardcore fans, but this is Disney's flagship series here, where we're getting a perfect live action sampling of the Mandalorians and how they behave, the unity amongst them, and
It's the
it's
dynamic.
phenomenal.
Dude, the thing that's so nice about this is they have pride in their Mandalorian roots. We've never seen this. Not in Clone Wars, not in Rebels. They don't take off their helmets. They don't speak ill of each other. The only reason they speak ill of the Mandalorian is because he is an outsider. That is the.
Right, and this draws up some questions. Is obviously the Mandalorian was clearly a foundling. I think that's pretty much confirmed at this point. He's not Mandalorian blood. I imagine half those guys probably aren't at this point.
Right,
Who
of
knows?
course.
We don't really know what happened throughout those 20 years preceding the original trilogy. Who knows? After the Clone Wars, the Mandalorians clearly went around gathering foundlings around the galaxy. The point is, in this heated conflict between Paz and the Mandalorian, obviously criticizing the Mandalorian because the Beskar medal is engraved with Imperial insignias now, and basically that he's a traitor and he's sharing tables with those who essentially wiped out their people, the Mandalorians. And this gets me curious because Paz Vizsla, he's talking about a purge. There was some kind of purge, and obviously in Legends there was a purge for the Mandalorians, right? So the
Right.
Empire does wipe out a considerable number of the Mandalorians in Legends and the original Mandalorian material, but in canon, we're in canon now, and he's talking about the purge, and there was no sign of any purge in the Clone Wars or preceding it, and he's talking about the Empire doing it. Now, at the end of Star Wars Rebels, the last we see of the Mandalorians, I mean, Bo Katan has stepped up as their new leader, wielding the dark saber and essentially organizing all the Mandalorian clans. And they're all unified and ready to take on whoever stands in their way. And the Mandalorians are actually in pretty good shape by the end of Star Wars Rebels. And now it makes me wonder, did something happen? Did it go wrong? Was there a major retribution on behalf of the Empire where the Imperials just said no and just started overwhelming the Mandalorians, wiping them out wherever they saw an opportunity, like the Jedi? Because that seems like the case. Like after Rebels, things just didn't work out for the Mandalorians
So
because now they're all in hiding.
right. So there's a couple of things that I think really support that argument of the Imperials coming in really, really breaking down on the Mandalorian Guild. They never take off their helmets. In Rebels and in Clone Wars, they talk about the traditions of the Mandalorians, but they never really practice them. They're following the rules.
With each clan, they all have their own separate traditions. Because that non-removal of the helmet thing, that is not shared amongst other clans.
Right. But the clan we see in Mandalorian, let's just assume that this is the last Mandalorian clan, because I think that's kind of what they're hinting at a little bit. So they're going back to basics, essentially. They're going back to stark traditions. They're going back to, we don't remove our helmets. We don't go outside in multiples because we don't want to draw attention. We get as much Beskar metal as we can, because I assure you, not every Mandalorian in that room has Beskar metal armor. Right? Return the Beskar to the guild. They talk about returning things to the Mandalorians, not to their Mandalorian clan, which I think is very, very telling of the situation that they're in. They're back to basics. They're hiding like the Jedi. It's incredible, the dynamic between them, especially, that they stand together unified as Mandalorians because they have to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it's so great.
It's incredible, man. I mean, the whole scene is incredible. I'm watching this room of Mandalorians talking about the Mandalore, and they're whipping out vibroblades that are actually vibrating. They all have their own unique armor. Unlike the Death Watch, they're all different and just so perfectly, the scene just so perfectly encapsulates some of the best parts about the Mandalorians and why there is a whole subset of Star Wars fans that love Mandalorians more than any other Star Wars. And this scene just gets me so excited because, listen, man, I love Mandalorians, but I'm not like other Mandalorian fans who are building armor sets and getting deeply invested in all of the lore from Legends. But I'm so excited for those people because I saw some of them in Celebration Chicago. A buddy of mine in Belgium is a huge Mandalorian, and I'm just watching this and I'm just like, dude, this is incredible. I'm so excited for them because this is exactly what they were looking for in the Clone Wars, and they didn't get it because the Clone Wars was telling a different story.
Right.
And it's just so exciting. Just this scene alone before we even get through with the rest of the episode. And so the blacksmith, the Mandalorian armorer, she's crafting the full armor set now. He says the integrity of his armor has been compromised and he needs to begin again. And she's crafting the whole new armor set of with the Beskar metal. But she also makes him what are they called? Something birds.
Whistling birds.
Whistling birds. Thank you. And installing those into his gauntlet, and that was really exciting. I didn't think he was in the same episode, but yeah, I loved this. Man, I thought just him walking underground and passing some Mandalorians was incredible.
God.
So this was.
I mean, dude, right? I mean, can we just talk about that? We got excited when we saw two Mandalorians walk past our Mandalorian in the first episode. We got excited when we saw him interact with another Mandalorian at all. But in this episode, 3 Mandalorians are speaking. About 6 are standing behind them. They have an interaction. They're talking about the tradition of Mandalore.
Yeah, because it's like, going into the series, I thought my assumptions were that the Mandalorian was going to be obviously a legitimate Mandalorian, whether he's pure blood or a foundling, whatever, but that he would have broken off from the other Mandalorians, right? He didn't stay on Mandalore. He didn't stick with whatever Mandalorian crew he was running with. And so he just effed off and became a bounty hunter. And then so he's totally separate from them and maybe even disavowed as a Mandalorian, but still maintaining, the way, right? The way of the Mandalore. I always thought that they were just going to say, yeah, we didn't have and this and that. I'm so happy that I was so completely 100% wrong.
God, I love that group dynamic. So this is what I was talking about guild dynamics, right? You have all of these beautiful things, all these beautiful interactions amongst the Mandalorians. To top it all off, Ross, he is honest about the kill. He says it was not an honorable kill. He is honest. That is
Right.
incredible. Seeing that structure, that honesty, that respect. Our protagonist has standards.
Right.
For almost the first time in Star Wars, our rough around the edges protagonist has standards. That is incredible.
Yeah, he has standards and he has a heart, and we have already gotten to know his face. And that's always something you can do easier in a video game when you're playing as the character.
Right?
But when you're able to do that in just 3 episodes of an actual show
Two
with real
episodes.
actors on a real set, that in and of itself is an impressive feat.
It's insane. We don't even get to see this guy's face.
Right.
We're not even seeing his face, and I
And
feel
I'm not
more
even
connected to
thinking of
him.
his face either the whole time. I'm not thinking of Pedro Pascal underneath the helmet. I know that's what he looks like underneath the helmet, but I mean, I'm not even thinking about it.
Dude, I have no idea what the guy looks like, so I mean, I'm just like full bliss.
Oh, well, there you go, man.
But yeah, like I feel more connected to this guy than I do to the Fallen Order characters that I spent like 13 hours with, 14 hours with.
100%.
And
I mean, that's partially because, of course, they've already developed the Mandalorian, and even outside of just giving you a window into who he is and integrity of character and the heart underneath that helmet. You know, the person underneath that helmet with just a few basic sequences that allowed him to showcase who he is as a person without removing the helmet. You've got flashbacks in this scene. So as the armorer is essentially building his new set of Beskar armor, they're once again using the same music, flashing back to the Clone Wars. Which, Tate, I would just like to stop for a moment and say that, and just acknowledge that I just said that about a live action Star Wars series.
in 2019, in 13 years after Revenge of the Sith, you get to say live action Clone Wars content.
Dude, watching more of what we got to see in the trailer of the super battle droids walking around, bursting through doors. I mean, blowing things up and attacking innocents and droid gunships flying overhead.
This is the first time
Dude,
we get to see this, dude.
it is shocking and it is incredible. And as a Clone Wars fan, it's actually everything that we didn't get out of the actual series, right? Because if they were fighting the droids, you're always watching it from the perspective of the heroes, those capable to handle them. But just these flashback sequences alone are already something that was missing from our beloved series. You never got just civilians running for their lives from these big Terminator killing machines that just show up out of nowhere, drop from ships, and then suddenly just slaughter everyone you know. I mean, the Clone Wars were a horrifying 3 years for the galaxy.
And we never
This
get to see
happened
that.
on worlds before the Jedi or anyone ever got there to save the day. And so, I mean, they really capture that with these brief flashbacks, and especially with these incredible looking super battle droids. I was just this, and I think there's going to be another flashback sequence too before they're done, and I'm already just enamored.
Yeah, dude. I mean, they got to make a Beskar Matter rifle. So, I'm just kidding.
But I'm curious what the story is behind what exactly happened to Mandalorian child and his family on this planet. Like, what are these battle droids doing? Like, what are they there for? What happened?
Subjugation.
Because
Subjugation, Ross.
well, not just that, but I'm curious about whose droids they are. Like, which separatist leader was sending them? Like, what was the story there? Because those super battle droids are different. They're not the same. Like, they're upgraded. They're like advanced super battle droids. They've got an even bulkier build around the shoulders. They've got wrist cannons on both arms. They've got red lights on the central eye, which other supers did not have. They only ever had the red dot kind of on the left of their main faceplate. So,
right. So I really like the idea, not the idea, but the fact that we get to see what it really looks like, what war really looks like. Because in Star Wars so far, we've seen the clashing of people. Besides, like, you know, the Ryloth episode of the Clone Wars where you have all of the civilians, the civilian casualties. Like, you get a little taste of that. But in this, we get to see full on subjugative invasion. That is
Yeah.
incredible. That's what war is. You know what I mean? Like Geonosis is rad. It's a battlefield. It's fun. It tickles the fancy of your childlike fascination with violence. But real
Yeah.
violence, killing innocent people, raiding their homes, something we've never gotten in Star Wars.
Right.
And that's the
Yeah,
reality of
and
war.
that's always such a fun element to explore in Star Wars because you get that in Battlefront Twilight Company a bit, the book, and I hope we'll get more of it moving forward. Is the perspective of these events and these things that we're used to seeing from the perspective of Jedi and those capable of handling these situations. But like when you're a rebel and you've grown up 20 years, maybe even on a backwater world, and have had no chance of even hearing about what has transpired elsewhere in the galaxy, you've grown up, and one day some white stormtroopers and TIE fighters showed up on your world, and you didn't know who they were. You didn't grow up near, even having access to galactic events. Didn't even have access to the HoloNet. Never even knew what was going on. Just heard hearsay from those locally, right? And then you grow up, you become a rebel, you're suddenly stationed on Hoth, and then you see Vader coming down a hallway, levitating your friends, stabbing them, throwing them around, wielding a laser sword, and sending your lasers firing back at you. I mean, just this monster, this nightmare. These perspectives are always so refreshing because they are quite literally refreshing. Like they're quite literally refreshing the ideas, these scenes that we've already seen, because you are now seeing them from the perspective of those who are unfamiliar. And I think that always makes for, again, these scenes just suddenly becoming new all over again. I think that's important going forward, to keep doing things like that. And yeah, man. So as he leaves though, and he heads over into the cantina, he links back up with Grief Karga, and Grief Karga even got a nice little payday. He made a commission off bounty and got a couple, slabs of Beskar metal himself that he stuffed in his jacket. And
So
Mandalorian is clearly not happy about having turned in Baby Yoda. He feels guilty, and he just wants to charge right into his next mission. He gets a bounty for Amon Calamari, that he's just going to go chase after to clear his head and not think about Baby Yoda. Um,
I want
but
to add
yeah, like
something
you
really
said, man,
quick.
the Mandalorian's walking in there and he's begrudgingly abiding by the game. Doesn't like him because they don't want, because he doesn't like them, and it's cool.
Right. So I love the dynamic with credits that we're seeing in this. That not only are they currency, but they're quite literally valuable metals used to craft the gear of Star Wars characters. It's another
Yeah.
dynamic I really, really appreciated. Of course, we see that with Beskar, but we can only assume the same thing goes for other things as well.
Yeah, and you don't get enough of that. Like in the Clone Wars, you'd be hard pressed to watch a character change their clothes at any point in series.
Change their
I
clothes,
mean,
or use some sort of everyday means of purchase, everyday activity. Right. I think
yeah,
that's the biggest strength. Not only is changing clothes everyday activity, but using money is an everyday activity that we just don't get to see in Star Wars.
and I like how detailed they are with it too, because now that you're living in a post-Empire galaxy, suddenly Imperial credits are not worth as much, and trying to pay him in calamari something like whatever the Mon Cala use currency, and everybody's just using all kinds of different currency now because the Imperial credits are not worth as much. And I think that's really cool, man. But as he heads back to the Razor Crest, and he looks at the little analog stick and notices the ball is missing because his Baby Yoda had taken it off. And then that is what finally sets him off. And the regret and the guilt fully sets in. He cannot leave the planet, knowing Baby Yoda is likely being experimented on and maybe even murdered because of him. And obviously, the direct link there is the dynamic that they shared just with him getting Baby Yoda safely back to the Imperial Remnant throughout the past episode. And then, obviously, as well, because he was a child, totally vulnerable and helpless to these oppressive forces around him. And for him, it was the CIS. And now for Baby Yoda, it's this Imperial Remnant and more oppressive figures that are seeking to do harm to innocents,
So
and he
Ross,
can't stand. Yeah,
I want to take a second because we're about halfway through the episode as we talk about this.
yeah,
Let's just outline the dynamic so far, the dynamic of the three guilds, because this is something that's really striking to me. And you talking about his past and his personality really brings it into the center front in my mind.
yeah,
You have the Imperials, who are, let's just call them the antagonists, the bad guys. You know, this show is pretty morally gray in terms of what is right and wrong, but they are the antagonists, right? The Imperials are the antagonists. They want something. They want Baby Yoda. The Guild is the indifferent. They want to make money. They want to preserve, so they want Baby Yoda. Then we have the Mandalorians, and more specifically our Mandalorian. They want money. They want glory, but they also want it honorably. The Empire goes to the Guild, tells them what they need. The guild goes out. Eventually, the Mandalorians are brought in. You know, Mandalorian delivers the baby to the Empire, then returns to the guild begrudgingly. You have this interplay of three wildly different social groups coming together. This interplay here. There is frustration within the Mandalorian because of both groups. Right? The guild has frustration with the other two groups. And the Empire, frankly, has frustration with the other two groups. All the groups are frustrated with each other, but they have to work in harmony because if they don't, the entire system will fall apart. And what happens?
there isn't even a system anymore. And now everybody's just trying to work off of what little honor and integrity is left among these factions.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So the system is being created by these three guilds. Right, it's a working machine. They all interplay and work together. As soon as one little thing goes off, a little screw is loosened. The Mandalorian that they sent after the baby has a heart. That's the screw loosening. That screw snowballs and a cog breaks out. He infiltrates their base. He steals the baby bag, and then the entire machine crumbles. The entire guild goes after him. That is an insane dynamic that I can't believe they pulled off in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
The interplay of three very separate factions working as a machine, and that machine slowly breaking apart. Think about it, Ross. Movies can't even do that. Movies can't have that distinct interplay. How crazy is that?
And balance them all and create a through line
Exactly.
where each one is affecting the character in a separate way, some more indirect than others, but it's like
all three affect each other.
And and to me, Tate, I think it's a shame that we can't get this basic storytelling and basic interplay of antagonists and basic character development elsewhere in Star Wars, because we'll talk about Jedi Fallen Order a little bit. It's just like this kind of storytelling, man. It hasn't existed in the sequel trilogy, and it doesn't exist in Jedi Fallen Order, and this needs to be the standard. They need to tell functional, coherent stories like this, and they cannot waver anymore. This is how it needs to be.
Dude, this is past where they need to be. You know what I mean? They could have simplified this so much, Ross. They could have simplified this so much.
It is overall a simple concept and a simple story at the end of the day.
But when you think about it, Ross, they add so much complexity. They didn't need to show the guild being upset with the Mandalorian for getting the bounty. They did not need to show that. They didn't need to see they didn't need to show the Empire being frustrated with the incompetence of the other bounty hunters. They didn't need to show any of that, but they showed all of it.
Right.
It's through small quips and small scenes. One line conveys an entire story. Right? The Mandalorians having their honor completely juxtaposes them to the Empire and to the bounty hunting guild. Right? These small lines come together and create this massive connection. This massive connection between these three factions creates this machine. I do not expect any other piece of Star Wars media to go this deep. It's crazy. It is insane.
Incredibly satisfying.
Incredibly satisfying.
This is exactly what I think we were all hoping at with Star Wars 1313 and just all the other Lucasfilm exploring the Star Wars underworld, but just never getting it.
right? They
And
never got it right. Not even in comics could they get it right.
and dude, the infiltration sequence is
Oh
phenomenal.
my god.
The way it is shot. I mean, I'm watching this knowing that it's being directed by Deborah Chow, and I'm just thinking also like, man, what if we get a sequence like this with like Obi-Wan stealthing around stormtroopers on Tatooine like this or something? I mean, this is just so well done. And it really, as he's killing the stormtroopers, gave me some real Force Unleashed vibes as they're laying there cold and dead from the Mando. And then, I mean, as he's just taking them all out, man. I mean, everybody's been referencing John Wick, and that's very true. I mean, he's just taking them out in stride as he gets through and gets to Baby Yoda, and it's just so well done. I love the grit. It's the tiny thing that really keep you invested, because the stormtroopers, when they walk in and he first blows the hole in the wall, they're flicking on the flashlights on their E11s.
Oh,
And
I want to add something. Speaking of E11s, Ross, I'm sorry to cut you off. Did you notice that these stormtroopers were using random guns? They were using random blasters from all throughout the Star Wars continuity.
Yeah,
Scavengers. They were
right.
using Naboo blasters, Ross. You know the Naboo blaster I used in Battlefront 2?
Yeah, wait, one of them is using a Naboo blaster?
3 stormtroopers were using those. I am not kidding you.
I've got to pay attention. I have to look, man, because I didn't notice blasters, but I did notice later on some Mandalorians were using the Rebel blaster, the smaller Rebel blaster,
right?
Which was very cool as well.
Not the A280, the smaller one, right?
Yeah.
I
forget it.
Oh, the DH-17.
DH-17, yeah.
And a stormtrooper was using a DH-17. That's why I remembered. Right. Dude, these stormtroopers are using cobbled together weapons that they found.
I appreciate all this attention to detail, man, because listen, it's not there elsewhere in Star Wars.
Dude, no, it's not. It's not
there in the sequel trilogy.
In the sequel trilogy, everyone has new guns, new random shit.
That attention to detail is also not there even in Jedi Fallen.
Not even.
There are a lot of little nitpicky things in Jedi Fallen Order where I noticed they were not paying attention to the details, that pulled me out of it. And this kind of attention to detail, I mean, you need fans working on this stuff. You need fans, people who aren't just fans of certain parts of Star Wars, but are at least aware and familiar with all of Star Wars, to where they can do everything justice like this by just paying attention. And it just those little things go so, you know. And this is just the first half of the infiltration sequence. He gets to Baby Yoda. They've got Baby Yoda under some kind of belt. You've got the little interrogation, same type that obviously Vader used on Leia Star. So those are obviously commonplace for Imperials, and they've still got one 5 years later. It's got the little needles. It's got all those little prongs and things. Mandalorian blasts it, and we still don't know what this guy's trying to do. Cloning patch on his arm, so maybe he's trying to clone Baby Yoda. Who the hell knows? But he certainly is not trying to harm Baby Yoda. I don't know about you, Tate, but I mean, I certainly his pleas. Like I believe the guy, while obviously has ill intentions, doesn't want Baby Yoda dead.
I think this guy, honestly, I think he's being because we see this with a lot with the Empire, right? They're being pushed to do things. Like Galen Erso,
right?
Very reluctantly built the Death Star.
His whole life, most of his life working on the Death Star. Begrudgingly.
So I mean, I really thought that the Mandalorian was going to kidnap this guy. I think that would have been awesome, throwing him in the back of the Racer Quest. That dynamic is not over though.
Carbonite for future use if he needs them, right?
Right. But yeah, no, I definitely don't think that this is the last we see of the scientist. I think that there's going to be some sort of connection, some sort of through line with the actual Mandalorian protagonist himself.
And dude, as he's stealthing his way out of the base, and he's hiding behind crate, and he's holding Baby Yoda. I mean, just ready for anything.
We talked about grit, Ross, right? When he burns the clone trooper. Keep in mind, guys, clone troopers wear plastoid. Stormtroopers. Oh god, stormtroopers. Oh god. Oh shoot. Sorry. Stormtroopers wear plastoid armor. Plastoid is a hardened plastic in the Star Wars universe. Imagine burning plastic to somebody's skin. That's what happens, and that's what we see. We hear agonizing screams.
It's unsettling.
It's extreme, Ross. Whenever a clone trooper would be cut down by a Sith Lord, like in Clone Wars, I was just thinking, man, not only did this guy get cut in half, but this plastic armor is like melting into his skin.
Oh yeah, it's horrendous.
It's
and when
awful.
the Mandalorian was, first of all, it was great just to know that he had in the first episode. That was exciting when he first whips it out. Then when he tries to use it again against the Mudhorn, but I didn't think he was going to be freaking burning stormtroopers alive this soon. I mean, whoa, it's nuts. And the stormtrooper after that just drops cold, fried, and dead on the. I mean, bro, I wasn't expecting them to get this gritty, this fast in one sequence. It's just so exciting and just, I mean, yeah. And when he gets cornered in the bigger, more wide open room, and then he starts to put the Baby Yoda down, he's like, "What I have is valuable." He's going slow, but then he uses the whistling bird, which are basically just like little flares, right?
No, dude, it's like Yondu's arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went through their necks and stuff. That was crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty screwed up, man. But they're cool, and I hope
yeah.
we get to see more of those. Maybe in the future if he does.
100%, dude. He has like 20 left. I thought he was gonna just waste them off the final battle. I'm glad he didn't.
And yeah, it's just crazy, man. I mean, those are so deadly, but so small. Very much like Yondu's arrow. When all of their beepers are going off and being and shouldn't be because it was delivered, and they all leave the cantina. I wasn't expecting a whole sequence at night. So as he's walking through the town at night, and you can tell people are coming out of the corners, they're looking at him. The tension is building until he's just surrounded and has to stop. And he's confronted by Grief Karga, and Karga feels totally betrayed. This and that. You have a really great exchange, and basically saying how he's the only one that the Mandalorian can trust at this point after what he's done now. And obviously, they were going to kill him. But Beskar armor or not, he's still surrounded by too many guys, right?
Oh, dude.
And I was very curious to see what was going to happen. And but it's just shot so beautifully, man. I mean, the cold lighting at night shining off of his new silver Beskar set of armor. Oh my god. It's just so cool just to look at these shots, let alone when he decides to take them all on, hop in that speeder, blast a couple, and do that twirl into the speeder. Bro.
Gosh, I really thought that they were just going to kind of cop out and use the whistling birds. I'm so glad they didn't, because instead we get this gritty action sequence. We see the most elite sniper we've ever seen in the Star Wars universe just disintegrate 4 or 5 people in a matter of 3 seconds. Oh my lord.
Yeah. And then when he seems to stop as he's leaning, as he gets the droid to drive, and then obviously the astronaut first before he aims his pistol, but then Grief shoots it, and then it comes to a complete stop, and then it's just silence. And then suddenly his man starts creeping up the back. He takes out the guy up top, takes out a Rodian, and we're not just vaporizing Jawas, we're vaporizing people.
These are people,
that Rodian gone.
Can we talk about the design of the guild? Dude,
yeah.
50% are species that I recognize right away. We see Rodian, I think we see a Quarren or two. We see, what are they called? The ones that are in Jabba's palace.
Dude, we have already got Quarren, Twi'leks. I mean,
Kubas.
they're showing us, the Mon Calamari, but more than that, in this scene, you've got a freaking one of those bounty hunters, the Zabrak.
Yeah,
yeah. I really appreciated that, and I really appreciate the inclusivity of familiar species, because again, we are still in the same universe as the original 6 movies. I mean, I cannot believe that we even had to say it for that long. I'm so glad that it seems to have come to an end now. And with the Mandalorian and with seemingly Rise of Skywalker, they finally abandoned that BS of
Yes.
just only being able to show new species. It's like, listen, we're in the same universe. You need to have familiar species. You need to have a healthy balance and a healthy mix of both new and old.
Absolutely.
And they're doing it here, man, and it's great. Finally. Um, but yeah, and you got some really cool designs in there too, like one bounty hunter. He might even be a droid. He's got like this really cool metallic helmet with these big bug eyes, and he kind of reminds me of Firefly from the Batman series. From the Arkham games. But yeah, dude, and I just loved it because, of course, the Mandalorian series. But no, dude, he's not wavering, and he's prepared to die for Lego Yoda. And when he's leaning over Lego Yoda, right, and you see those little eyes, and he's just protecting him for however long he can. I mean, I already feel more connected to the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda than I have pretty much any other Disney era Star Wars character.
Yep. Yep. 100%.
And then as the Mandalorian suddenly go up, at first I was like, dude, first of all, I was not prepared for this sequence. I did not expect anything remotely close to this until
not
the
even
finale.
a little bit.
I mean, and so when the first missile comes through and takes out the guy up top, I'm like, oh, it's Cara Dune. She's coming in on her gunship, and then they're gonna F off. I'm like, great segue into the next episode. But then when the Mandalorians come in on jetpack, I was like, what?
So this goes back to the dynamic. We see the frustration the Mandalorians hold and how they hold their standards and community above all else. Dude.
And they're at the point now where they're not going to hide underground in some backwater world anymore. The Empire is gone, and they're coming back. They're revealing themselves because the Mandalorians are warriors, and they don't hide. They've had enough, and they're going to take on the galaxy, and they're possibly going to die, but it's better than hiding like cowards. And dude, it was like watching Endgame, but for Mandalorian.
Right?
As they're standing around different shots of each Mandalorian as they're all taking out bounty hunters. I mean, my God, I was not ready for this, Tate. I was so freaking thrilled watching this. This instantly became one of the best sequences in all of Star Wars. Just this brief couple of minutes. I mean, not only is it just a perfect scene for all Mandalorian fans, but dude, it was also like watching a live action episode of the Clone Wars with the way they're flying around on their jetpacks. I mean, holy crap. And then the honor and the brotherhood amongst them as he says you're going to have to relocate the tribe. And then he just once again recites, "This is the way." I mean, this is just perfect.
Dude, I want to pull up the clip right now. I think I might pull up the clip. I'm going to pull up Disney Plus right now. I mean, I just want.
Oh, dude, I've had it on my phone. I've been watching it the whole.
Dude, I'm pulling it up. I'm pulling it up right now. I mean, I don't care if we get copyright claimed. We're not
incredible,
monetized.
right? That we've got it, and we can instantly go back and refer back to it and just play it whenever we want.
And the fact that we can like play clips on the podcast. I mean, come on. This isn't a movie where you see it in theaters and you have to wait 3-4 months to see it at home, right? I can turn this on and watch this.
Details. It's just right here for us, dude. And Grief Karga was not having any of it. He's just looking around in shock, and he just freaking dips and heads back for the Razor Crest because obviously that's where the Mando's heading. And I knew that he was going to do that, but when he finally gets blasted by the Mando, I knew that the Mandalorian, like, he understands why Grief is coming after him. And Grief, I don't think, is the worst guy, right? So he didn't want to kill him. Um, and I think if he wanted to, obviously he would have
Right.
clocked him right in the head.
Of
Easy.
course.
Done. But he stepped to the side, drew the smoke, and took a second to aim exactly where he knew that best guard would be in his jacket.
Right. So Ross,
And
I have the clip pulled up
out
here.
of the ship, yeah.
Let's just watch this, dude. Let's just experience this. Look at this.
You're not pulling it up, are you? Oh no, content ID, dude.
Dude, or demonetized anyway.
No, it might block the video.
Look at that, dude. It's so sick. Okay, that's all I'm showing. That's all I'm showing if that's the case. I didn't realize that they could take down the whole video because of it. Oh, right, because the show is it's paid. This is piracy, technically. Not piracy, but
Yeah.
you know, whatever. I showed like that 4-second clip, but dude, it's so badass.
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, what an episode!
God.
I was not prepared for how good this series was going to get with just episode 3. I mean, I'm curious now if they're going to be able to maintain this momentum going forward. Like, yes, the Mandalorian's going to be facing off against additional Imperials, Death Troopers, Moff Gideon. There's a lot to come, but my God, did we just peak for the season?
I hope not. I hope not. This is peak Star Wars in general, though. So.
Oh yeah,
I'm calling it. This is the best episode of the series. I'm calling it now. If something is better than this, I will be so shocked.
So would I, man. I mean, this whole episode was a gift. I just cannot be more proud of, obviously, Dave Filoni, our guy, and Jon Favreau. I mean, but of course, Deborah Chow. And I really hope that they're able to craft a solid story this passionately as well for the Obi-Wan series that is sufficient for what she is capable of, very clearly having been proven now with this episode. Because of course I'm still a skeptic and I worry, will we see this kind of love and passion and attention to detail series?
The Obi-Wan series is so much.
Story be as good?
The problem is, dude, it's so much harder to write a series based around, you know, existing characters and existing over-bloated time period. The greatest thing about Mandalorian is that they get to choose what the world is like in between the original trilogy and the sequels. They got to choose what kind of world they wanted to build. Whereas the Obi-Wan series is going to take place in a time period that is completely oversaturated. So,
yeah,
it has a huge disadvantage. And speaking of oversaturated, are you wanting to move on, you think?
Yeah. So, of course, next week we have Cara Dune's debut episode directed by Bryce Howard.
Whoa, really, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that she directed.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, dude.
You just have, they've had the best, they have the best people working on season 1 here. And I'm very curious to see who they brought in for season 2, because I mean, you just have some of Hollywood's best people all on this, and it shows. I mean, yeah. So anyway, cannot wait for that.
No way. I mean, dude, I can't wait for the culmination of the series and to just sit back and binge watch it all over again.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Last week where we left off, I was just finishing up Jedi Fallen Order, and you were about a third of the way through, probably not even. And now I obviously completed the game literally that night. So last Sunday or Monday or whenever it was. And then you now just finished it yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
Because you played it on hard, which I'm not brave enough. I am so bad at games now, Tate, that I literally had to play it on story mode. And obviously, you're not dying on story mode a lot. It's still challenging. You're still engaged to some extent. Then, surprisingly, they do actually keep it pretty engaging even in story mode. It's not just a walk in the park, even on the easiest mode. And I'm usually not one to go for the easiest mode, but of course, Jedi Fallen Order is not a forgiving game.
It's
you found that out the hard way.
Yes, I did.
And This whole game, man. If there, you can really encapsulate Jedi. It's an exhilarating, incredibly fun, thrilling game to play. It is gorgeous. The character of Cal Kestis is great. The worlds are incredible. The level design is pretty fantastic through and through. But oh my god, where the game falls flat on its face, the story.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even want to talk about the story right now. I honestly prefer to just talk about. So I guess we'll begin with no spoilers.
So
Or do you just want to go all in on spoilers now that we are? I mean, we kind of had our no spoilers talk last week.
yeah,
Like both of us completed the game. Might as well just go right into spoilers.
I have one no spoiler thing to say about the game. On hard mode, not ultra hard mode, but on hard mode, dude, it really feels like Dark Souls. I mean, it really does. You're being challenged by every fight you get into. The respawns are a lot more forgiving than Dark Souls. There's a lot more meditation points than there are campfires. But dude, it is like I played the max difficulty on Spider-Man PS4, and that was far easier than this game was. Max difficulty on God of War, far easier than this game was. This really is a Sekiro, Dark Souls adventure game. I love this concept, dude. I love this concept.
And I'll be honest with you, the reason like that I played it on because I wanted to know the story. Like I did not want to find out the fate of Cal Kestis from a YouTube recommendation, and I knew that would be inevitable if I didn't cut through the game quick.
Right.
And then try to enjoy the world a bit more after the fact. And so that's exactly what I did. And even on story mode, man, you still have a wild ride ahead of you. And I was blown away by just how long Jedi Fallen Order is. Now, I mean, they extended by doing a bit of backtracking. Like about half the game is backtracking.
But that's fine, because the backtracking unlocks a lot of the world.
Right. They change it up enough to where it's not that bad, especially the second half of the game. The first couple times when you go back and forth between a couple of the planets and you're just retreading the same areas, I was like, but the second half, it pretty much ceases to become a problem.
I didn't really get that, Ross. Like, when you go to Zepho the second time, I felt like...
For me, when you went to Zepho to Kashyyyk and then back to Zepho, that's where I took issue in the very beginning.
See, I thought it was fine because you go to the crashed Venator on Zepho.
Yeah, but that wasn't really enough for it to feel largely different because you still have to obviously backtrack through the same areas you just were in to get there.
Right, yeah.
But I guess we're kind of talking spoilers now, so...
Oh, yeah. Should probably change that.
Yeah, so if you have not played Jedi Fallen Order, if you the end, this would be your spoiler warning. I strongly suggest you pick up the game. The story is pretty much crap, but the game is incredibly fun and just gorgeous and just exactly what you would want out of a Star Wars game. Not out of a Star Wars story, but out of a Star Wars game, you need to play Jedi Fallen.
Yep.
So, that's your spoiler warning.
All right, well, let's do what I always do and talk about the end of the game first.
Okay.
Dude, Seer and Cal should have died. At least Seer. At least Seer should have died. Preferably, both of them die. If you face Darth Vader and live, then your name is Luke Skywalker.
Right.
That's it. I'm sorry. Like Ross, if you face Darth Vader and live, your name is Ahsoka Tano or Luke Skywalker. All else...
Even Ahsoka, they had to invent time travel to keep her.
Right? But the reason why I give Ahsoka the pass is because, you know, he's kind of like her daughter, kind of like his daughter.
She's like his sister.
He's like his little sister, like his daughter. But, you know, your name's Luke Skywalker if you survive an encounter with Darth Vader. How the hell do two random Jedi survive this fight with Darth Vader? And if Seer is so disconnected with the Force, why can she still hold her own against the greatest Star Wars antagonist of all time?
Listen, man, Jedi Fallen Order now has cemented this problem that they have created with the new canon Jedi Purge survivors. Because now Darth Vader, has become similar to Thrawn in the sense that he has the presence, but he's all talk and doesn't do anything.
Oh yeah.
And obviously, the same cannot be said for the Rogue Ones, sure. But as far as being the Jedi killer that he is supposed to be for those 20 years, dude, he's only killed Jedi in the comic. And that's screwed up.
And
Because now Ezra, Kanan, Ahsoka, Cal, and Seer have all survived encounters with Vader. And that's nuts.
that's a
And
crime.
not right. Because when I was getting to the end of this game, I fully expected that Jedi Fallen Order, because Respawn seemed like they were fully acknowledging the proper story that needs to be told here with a game called Jedi Fallen Order, follows a Jedi during the Purge years after Revenge of the Sith, that this was going to be our first Disney era reality check for the Jedi survivors. You were going to play as Cal Kestis, this Padawan who excelled at a very young age and was such a great Jedi even as a Padawan and a young kid, to where it prepared him enough for 5 years later when he's able to pick up again and take on the Empire and have the potential to restore the Jedi Order, find the Holocron, get the double-bladed saber, take on the Inquisitors, take on the Empire, and really fully believe that you know he's capable of doing it, but you also know that he doesn't, and you're starting to get to the end and wonder what is going to happen to him, because something has to happen, because you know it doesn't work out. And so I believe that, okay, we had our little safe storyline on Disney XD where we didn't kill Ezra, Kanan, or Ahsoka, but now we're dealing with Respawn's admittedly pretty pathetic story, and we are now going to get our first reality check and get all the way up to the end, and Cal's going to have to sacrifice himself to get the away from Vader and save Grease and get them off planet, right? I thought that Seer was going to die, and then Cal was going to have to sacrifice himself to get that holocron to the Night Sister and Grease for them to take it back to the rebellion. And then maybe Bail Organa or whoever decide what.
Okay, Ross, I want to cut you off right there. The fact that our funky bunch does not have any connection to the rebellion is an absolute crime. That is.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how to fix the game after we talk about this, but specifically the ending, Ross. What you're describing could not have worked because the story is so flawed to begin with, and that is so unfortunate. That really sucks.
I mean, and so it has now created a problem, man, because the ending of Jedi Fallen Order is so bipolar.
Oh, yeah.
It was the most laughable scene. I could not believe it. I mean, the whole game is about you tracking down this holocron to find the list of Jedi, of Force-sensitive kids throughout the galaxy so they can rebuild the Jedi Order. Obviously, getting up to that, the Night Sisters casting doubts. You have the hallucination of the Force sequence where he's seeing what would happen, and they would all get hunted down anyway, and he end up Inquisitor. This, that, and the other thing. So he's having doubts, right? But so it's not. I don't doubt that Cal would have wanted to not rebuild the Jedi Order after all of those doubts. What was ridiculous about the final scene of Jedi Fallen Order is how he opens up the holocron after surviving their encounter with Vader. And
you should never say that. That should never be. When we're talking about Star Wars, you should never say surviving an encounter with Vader. Never.
Exactly. And he's talking, and he's saying, like, they're like the list of Force sensitive, the list of Force sensitive, and then the Night Sister's like the next generation of Jedi, and then Cal's like, nope, slice. I was like, what? I was like, okay, I get that Cal would have done that, but are they not upset? Like, they're looking, like, he hasn't shared these doubts with Seer yet or anything, and so I'm like, are they not mad? Like, they're literally, he's opening the holocron and they're all smiling at it like, yes, we're going to do this. And then he just slices it and the game ends. I'm like, what just happened? Like, it was the most bipolar scene, man. It was like Spider-Man Far From Home, where half the scene he's saying, don't be the next Iron Man. And then they play Iron Man music and he deploys out of the jet in his Iron Spider-Man suit. I mean, I cannot believe bipolar scenes like that when they happen. It was laughable the
It
way
makes
they
the
ended
whole
the game.
game worth nothing. This is the issue with placing a game in a time period that we are extremely familiar with and that we know the outcome of. They couldn't have done anything risky. They could not have jump started the order because we obviously see that there is no Jedi Order during the events of Episode 4. So what do? They send us on this wild goose chase with poor motivations. Extremely,
Oh,
extremely poor motivations. Dude,
dude, the
I would have.
Cordell storyline was awful.
It was such a nothing story. You know what I would have preferred, Ross?
Oh,
I love the concept of the Zepho. I like the concept. I do. I think it's
no,
interesting.
dude, the Zepho weren't that great. I mean, even when they finally were like and how they sounded, I was like, I have been given no reason to care.
Right, no. Right, that is my exact point. So, Ross, from a lore perspective, the Zepho are interesting. Maybe what should have been done is instead of jumpstarting the Jedi Order like we see in Rebels, like we see in this game, like we see all over the comics, instead of doing that, why not try to not resurrect the Zepho, but resurrect the teaching or the technology of the Zepho because they have a super weapon that can take over the Empire. Do you know how much more interesting that would have been?
Yeah, and then have it not work out. I mean, there's just so much you can do
There is so much
with
Star
with
Wars.
an ancient advanced species and a Jedi master who is learning about them and there's so much you can do with those concepts. But instead, it is this shallow, idiotic, wild goose chase through these temples and learning about basic information about them that just amounts to nothing. And the whole time, man, I'm just like, listen, like I don't mind temple raiding and having the Uncharted Tomb Raider experience and uncovering different parts about these slices of the Star Wars universe. That's not what bothers me. What bothers me is when it amounts to nothing, when it is for nothing. And
Right. So
mm,
Ross, my perfect Fallen Order would be a story about a rebel, specifically like Seer being a rebel, who knows stories about the Jedi, knows stories about this. They hack the Empire's communications. They save Cal, and they say, "Hey, we know this planet. It's outside of the Empire's range. There's a massive temple here. Because Cal has the Force Echo ability that like no other Jedi have. I love that concept of feeling the Force in objects. I mean, other Jedi have it, but we never really see
well,
it.
yeah, like the only one we know of that has it is Voss.
Right. So he like touches the temple and the like history of the Zepho is revealed to him and a Zepho prophet speaks to him in this force vision and tells him to unlock this and this and then a super weapon will be revealed that can take out the Empire. He does all of that. You get the tomb raiding because the tomb raiding is fun. I
It's
like the
already
tomb
more
raiding.
compelling right there, and that's not hard.
No, that's super basic. And then you throw in a twist at the end. The Zepho weren't really good guys; they were actually bad guys, and they want to do a Halo
And this
situation where they
weapon won't
just
just wipe out the Empire; it'll wipe out everyone.
right
So
Halo,
much to do so easily.
dude. That's not hard. You can go see Tartful. You can go see Tartful. You could go see the Night Sisters on Dathomir.
And dude, listen, I want to really make it clear how fun the game is, how
Oh my
incredibly well
god,
it plays, how gorgeous it is.
satisfying the gameplay
I
is.
mean, dude, we're just talking about the story. The game is a wild ride that every Star Wars fan needs to play. It is an immersive experience. I mean, this is an incredible game. Please do not mistake our distaste for the really shallow story for just how amazing the rest of the game itself actually is. The gameplay, the combat, the customization, the worlds. I mean, it is a divine Star Wars experience. So like we do not mean to undercut the actual game design it's at all.
Dude,
I mean, it is thrilling.
this is the best lightsaber combat in any game. Period. This is the
But
best.
again, like just the stories.
I want to
It's
include.
just
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. I want to
Now go
include
for
that
it.
the story does not overshadow the the competence, the complete competence and divine Star Wars experience that this is. The story is really rough, but it doesn't take this game down from an 8 out of 10. I mean, that's how good the gameplay is. That is how good the parkour is. That is how good the lightsaber play is. That is how satisfying it all is. There's a
Oh my
scene at the
god!
end of the game
When
where you
you're
go through a
running a
labyrinth.
stormtrooper with laser bolts, or you're whipping out the double bladed, or turning them into two separate blades, and I mean, dude, I could not have asked for more.
No way. There's the scene, dude, at the end with the Sith training grounds. Oh my, the Inquisitor training grounds.
Oh, I love that.
Dude,
The what do we call it? The dojo.
the dojo. Dude,
Yeah.
playing that on hard mode, that is the most fun I had with the entire game. It took me 3 tries. I will
And you know what I
admit.
love about the Purge Troopers is apparently they were the last batch of Jango Fett clones.
Oh yeah.
They were apparently, if you and this was revealed. If you look, apparently a lot of the Purge Troopers are actually the
Well,
last generation of clones.
that's why they used Jango Fett's DNA. Because remember, he was the Jedi killer. He was the
Right, and
most
so it makes
competent.
sense to actually have legitimate Jedi killers. But it's cool, man, that the Purge Troopers are essentially like an off branch of the main clone troopers and main clone army that were not trained to be clone troopers, but were trained, to kill Jedi. I'm curious where this took place, right? Where were the Purge Troopers trained? Because obviously they would have had to have been trained
In the Inquisitor Temple.
somewhere else.
No, I think it's in the Inquisitor Temple that we're seeing. Noting the dojo,
Maybe.
I think that they were trained in that facility. And the room after the dojo with all of the the big, long, tall thing with all of the red laser doors. I think that's the barracks.
Oh, those seem like prison cells.
Yeah, I didn't think it was prison cells though because those red things were dividers to other hallways.
Oh shit! I thought they were prison cells. I never got a good look.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that those are barracks, dude.
Crazy, man. I mean,
So,
that was incredible. The fortress was godly.
oh
I
yeah,
mean, what a mission.
yeah.
Yeah, dude. No, but I mean, easily the biggest problem with Jedi Fallen Order's story is.
100%. It's so easy to fix too.
I mean, listen, man. This new standard that has been created with Disney era Star Wars that we've seen in the sequel trilogy and now Jedi, thankfully, as we've established, not Mandalorian in the slightest.
Thank God.
Where you are just skipping right past basic character development, skipping right past getting your viewers and your audience to care about your character, just skipping right past basic narrative structure, and then skipping right to the big scenes where you're supposed to care, but you don't. You've got a problem. This is not acceptable. Like, you cannot just conveniently have this character scoop him up off of Braca, and she's like, we were intercepting Imperial transmissions, and guess what? I'm a Jedi, and some bad things happened to me, and I had a Padawan, but she's dead, and I got tortured, and please don't mind me as I continue to spew dialogue to you about my past and try to force you to care, even though I haven't done anything yet. She doesn't do anything. If they can't show us flashbacks, at least have her out with us. I mean,
Dude.
at least have her doing, like, using the Force. Maybe not even a lightsaber, just very, like, clearly taking action to establish why we should believe in her. This is the same thing with General Holdo in Last Jedi. Give us a reason to care.
Okay, you know how you fix Seer? You know how you fix Seer entirely? You know the scene where Cal jumps onto the Mantis, like very beginning of the game after the second sister fight?
Yeah.
Just have Seer force pull him on board.
There you go, man.
That's it. That's all you have to do. Have her force push the second sister, or Trilla, whatever you want to call her.
This is also a problem with that guy, Alakai or whatever, who shows up later on. He's just there. Here's some dialogue. Big scene. Do you care? No? Oh.
You mean Malachus?
Yeah. It was just, there's so many cases like this. And really, I think the two characters that were decent, like the one character who's developed the most in Jedi Fallen Order besides Cal is Grease.
No.
I
BD1
mean,
is developed even more with the whole Cordova
oh my
sacrificing
god,
his memories.
yeah, BD1 as the droid. BD1 is the best, and I think easily my favorite droid of Disney era Star Wars thus far. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I like him even more than BB-8 or
I like
K2
I like BD1 more than K2. I would definitely say that.
because, like, dude, that scene on Ilum was fantastic. I mean, I still didn't appreciate being dogged along with these useless Cordova Zepho stories for most of the game. It really irked me the whole time. I really didn't appreciate
Well,
that
you have
waste.
to go all in on the Zepho stories, right?
And
The Zepho are cool, dude. They got the big cool temples. They got the big cool puzzles. Go
yeah,
all in on that concept. Don't half-ass it. Don't show me bark. That was the biggest insult of the game. When you're on Zepho and Kashyyyk is revealed to you, you see bark on like the wall. Oh, this bark looks like
right.
Kashyyyk. There's the thing. No, what? Receive a transmission from like Saw Gerrera or something. I don't know.
Dude, I loved that scene on Ilum though. Even though I didn't really care for Cordova's character. Man, I actually did feel a little emotional for that in that scene
The
when
BD1 scene?
Cordova is having to say goodbye to BD and having to wipe
Right.
his memory,
Yeah.
saying goodbye, my friend, and you will find someone who will be able to take these logs, take these recordings, and establish the. I mean, what a scene! That was powerful and incredibly moving. But I mean, that was the only one for that character for Cordova was just that scene where I cared.
Right.
And yeah, man, again, and it's just kind of like Seer, who is just like Cordova was my master, and that's all you get. That's the only reason you're given to care, and then you have to follow his freaking holograms the whole game, as nothing happens
Dude.
with
Oh
this
my
Zepho storyline. It's such a waste of time.
Ross, okay, let's just start over. Let's just start over. Let's take the game and let's slowly fix the story, starting from the very beginning.
Oh,
First issue we need to fix is how Seer and Grease come into Cal's life. Make Grease a charter, right? So he's indifferent, he's getting paid, that's what matters. Make Seer a rebel. Seer is a rebel leader who's overhearing transmissions from the Empire, hears the transmission about Cal, charters the ship, gets her ass to Braca. She rescues Cal, says, I'm a rebel leader, I saved your life, so now you're indebted to me. Right? We want to restart, we've heard stories of the Jedi. We want to restart the Jedi Order because we want to inspire the rebellion. We need a Jedi to lead us. Because what happens in episode 5 and 6? They need a Jedi to lead them. That is why Luke Skywalker is given the position of general right off. He's a general, right? Something like that? Right off the cuff in Return of the Jedi. Because he is a Jedi, he needs to inspire the masses. So Seer is telling him that. She says, we have to go to this planet Bogano. There's a rebel base on Bogano. Introduce us to some other rebels, but have the Zepho temple be the centerpiece. That's why they're on Bogano. They want to see if it has anything to do with the Force. Because all they know is that the Zepho may have been Force sensitive. That is it. You travel through Bogano. Bogano's fun. I love it because it's such a great tutorial. It's such a great like PS2 era platforming tutorial area. I love it. I thought it was awesome. I thought it really introduced you to game mechanics.
Oh man, especially that large giant that just felt really.
Oh, dude, it's totally PS2 era platformer. That's why it felt very nostalgic. Like that was very unrealistic. But I liked it because of that very tutorial area. You go through that, you get to the Zepho, you have the Force Echo. Cal is talking to a Zepho ghost. Let's say a Zepho Force ghost, because let's just throw something cool and Star Wars related onto the table. And the Zepho Force ghost says, the only way you can beat this tyrannical empire is by unlocking the ancient weapon of the Zepho. Right? You move forward, you have him relay that information, and then a small group of rebels says, well, there's the planet Zepho that's being mined by the Empire. You move on to Zepho, go through that, and then at the end of the Zepho temple, right, he has another, like, not vision, because I feel like that's kind of cheesy to have visions over and over again, because I hated that with Cordova. But he sees a map. Now, this is great. So in God of War, there's a scene where you see a map, and it's what connects the current objective to a later objective. You see a map of where each of the temples are located, right? So you have to connect each of the temples of each of the planets to create almost a halo array to activate the weapon, right? So Cal sees that, okay, Kashyyyk is the next one on this list, right? He goes through the Kashyyyk temple, and you already know where the next temple is. You already know that the other one's on Zepho. You return there, do your thing, and then you get to Dathomir, right? You get to Dathomir, you have to activate that one, but a group of Night Brothers attacks you as you land, led by a Dark Jedi, led by Malicos, right? You get into a small fight with him, like the initial Second Sister fight, you lose immediately, and he says, join me, I'll teach you the way of the Night Brothers of Dathomir. You follow him, you hear his dialogue, you hear his exposition, and then he's attacked by the Night Sister, by Night Sister Marin. And then you're stuck in a civil war. The civil war between two halves of Dathomir. And all you need to do is get to the temple. So you play through Dathomir, you know, the whole thing with the big bat, that was super fun, that was super rad. You get to the temple, and then inside the temple, you have the Force vision, you have the Order 66 situation, you feel all of that distrust within yourself and whatnot. And instead of Seer saying you have to go to Ilum, Cal says to himself, I need to go to Ilum. I need to prove myself. I need to prove that I'm a Jedi. Right? You go to Ilum, you do your thing, you have fun, big laughs, you realize that it's actually Starkiller Base, and that all that shit about Starkiller Base being in the same star system was bullcrap, because Respawn just confirmed that Ilum is Starkiller.
No, Ilum is Starkiller Base.
They mind out. Yeah. The entire center
which
of the
is
planet.
Great. I love that, man. I mean, that was the Empire's one big single FU to the Jedi Order. To go straight for their planet where they create their lightsabers and just start stripping it down. It's like create a massive super weapon over the next 50 years.
It's like bombing a church. It's exactly like bombing a church, and that's exactly what they did. The greatest terror of all time. Right. So essentially, you know, you do your thing, you get back to Dathomir, you solve the Civil War, you fight Malicos, you activate the last beacon, and you return to Bogano to activate it. And then the Second Sister comes and says, you fool, you don't understand the teachings of the Zepho. If you activate this, the entire, you know, universe will be destroyed, or something like that. Something super cheesy and over the top, because it's Star Wars. That's fun.
Or just like every planet with these installations will be reduced to ash, or just
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then anyway, you have to have some way to get to the end scene. Let's say Cal is captured, or maybe there's a huge onslaught. Vader appears on Bogano and wipes out that rebel installation, takes Cal. Cal is pushed back. They're taken to Fortress Inquisitus, or whatever it's called. You fight your way out. And then you have a big final fight scene against Vader. He cuts you down. Roll the credits. Best Star Wars game ever made. It's really not that hard to write a good Star Wars story, something that's compelling. You don't need all the shit with Trilla being Seer's apprentice. You need Trilla to be connected to Cal in some way. Every catalyst in the game needs to be connected to Cal. Look at the coincidences in 4, 5, and 6. Everything is connected to the Skywalker family, and that's what makes the character attached, or the viewer attached to these characters. The same thing could have been done here.
So, yeah, dude, right there. I mean, everything you just said already makes the game coherent and functional. Now, there are two things that I would still address and change. Number one, this still doesn't fix Seer. Making her a generic rebel leader, you still need to make a character.
Right.
So at the very least,
of course,
she needs to be with you, blasting stormtroopers, inspiring rebel. I mean, you need to create a character. The whole problem with Seer is the whole game. She's just on the ship, not doing anything, just advising and talking to Cal and being a dialogue machine. And that's a problem. I'm sorry. They needed to have these characters like Saw Gerrera, for instance. the NPCs. When you're on Kashyyyk the first time, Saw is up in the building leading rebels. And you see him doing it.
Right? That should have been Seer.
And, you're just given a reason to care about these characters. Cal Kestis is the only character in the game that you care about because you are given a reason to attach to him. You are shown his past. You don't hear about it. You are eventually shown his past. You feel the trauma that is caused by it because it's still getting those that are around him killed. I mean, it's still like he's still deeply conflicted about what he is being called to do. I mean, he has already confronted failure. He's confronting guilt. I mean, you are developing him into a well-rounded character to get to the second half of the game. And you feel the fear in him. And that is all really relatable and very human and very down to earth. And you don't get any of that from Seer. Seer is just already she's already failed. She already embraced the dark side briefly. Her Padawan Inquisitor, and you would think instead you'd think she would be broken by that and not wanting to do anything, not wanting to restart the Jedi Order. No, she just is on a mission to start the Jedi Order just because. And she knows all about the holocron, and now is going to send this Padawan who she just found after. I mean, does she not feel any guilt for forcing him into this? There's so much you can do with her character. But no, not for a second. And I mean, the story is so dysfunctional. I mean, even with Grease, even though Grease at one point, he has down with him where he's saying, I didn't really care about anything until you came aboard, and now everything's changed for him. You get a lot of that with him, which I appreciated. But at one point, man, with Grease, you get ambushed like at the end of the second Zepho mission by a bounty hunter, and then taken to some arena where you're fighting off all these beasts and things you fought before, and then they just come in and rescue you on the Mantis. And I'm like, what just happened? And apparently it was all Grease's fault. Like, Grease had ratted us out.
Oh, dude.
And I was like, that's a big betrayal. I was like, whoa. And then they don't even talk about it. I was like, what?
Dude,
what?
Oh, my God.
I was like, what just happened? He just betrayed us.
And then did you notice?
And ousted us. And nearly got them killed. I'm like, Are you like, is their writing team like, were they that bad?
Dude, they
I
have
mean, damn.
The issue is about this, and this is why I still give the game like an 8 despite these issues. Dude, they have to find ways to introduce these gameplay elements. Like having the bounty hunters randomly show up as you're playing through the game is freaking awesome. I adore
it's natural.
that.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. But how do you introduce said bounty hunters? You'd have this whole thing with Grease ousting them? That's stupid. That's extremely stupid.
Cut from the game. That was so bad.
But see, if you cut that from the game, then you can't have the bounty hunters. And I think that's the biggest issue with Fallen Order as a whole. You have this game that has...
the bounty hunters. You just need one more cutscene where like Cal is ousted publicly.
Right, something.
And then, but show them seeing something on the HoloNet, like a broad. See, literally just pull up on the holo table, bounty out for Cal Kestis. He's been made. It's not hard.
It's not hard at all. But the thing is, like my point is, they introduce these amazing gameplay elements, and you need to have some sort of story as a through line. They just fail at every account when they try to add that story in.
Dude, and I mean, here's one thing I would change right off the bat. Since not every Star Wars medium is willing to show flashbacks, right? Not every, you see a lot of flashbacks all throughout the Clone Wars, but before The Last Jedi, flashbacks in Star Wars were used very sparingly. But now they're also being used in Jedi Fallen Order, so they're free and clear to use flashbacks. You have this incredible Order 66 sequence toward the end of the game, like 2/3 of the way in.
Incredible.
And I was blown away by this because it was so unique. It was such a great perspective because now we find out Cal Kestis and his master Jaro Tapal were on their way to reinforce Ki-Adi-Mundi on Megiddo. And that's really cool. They don't say Ki-Adi-Mundi's name, but they say they're going obviously Mundi and the Galactic Marines were stationed with Commander Bakara. And so that was all really great just to begin with. And the flashback sequence, remembering skills for Cal. And that's how you get force pull, force push, whatever. But if they took the Order 66 flashbacks for both Cal and Sears later on in the game and put those in the first act, dude, you would have been in much better shape
Save
far as
Cal's.
character development.
Yeah, they needed to save Cal's. Cal's being at the end is great, but
no, I still think Cal's didn't necessarily need to be in the beginning, but it should have been sooner than where it is.
No, I like where it is in terms of pacing of the game because it gives you a reason to leave Dathomir, yet at the same time it's completely manufactured and Ilum could have been placed before Dathomir.
Yeah, I think you could have done the death of Jar Paul, and that I feel like all of that could have been rearranged and shifted somewhere else earlier on.
I agree.
And so, but at the very least, we needed Sears and Trilla's
absolutely flashback. Or maybe a discussion, something.
No, dude, we had enough discussion. I mean, good God, the whole game relies on discussions and a character just batting dialogue at our face.
When I say discussion, I mean one between Trilla and Seer themselves. There should have been a lightsaber fight between them on like Zepho or something. I think when Jedi, like many months ago, I initial wish list for Jedi Fallen Order that of course I knew without a shadow of a doubt would never happen. That opening with Jedi Fallen Order, Cal is a Jedi Padawan with his master in the temple when nightfall goes down, and you get all the way through the temple fighting off the 501st, and you get all the way through, and it seems like you guys are going to escape, but then ultimately Anakin is in front of you, now deemed Darth Vader, the unstoppable chosen one, the greatest Jedi to ever live, who has now turned to the dark side, is in front of you, and Cal is able to get away, but Jaro DePaul, no. It just, you play as him, and it just says survive. And maybe you don't play as him, but instead you know that he dies. No, I would absolutely love to play as Jaro DePaul.
And yes, you play as Jaro DePaul, and it just says survive. And you survive for however long you can, knowing you can't win.
And that's what the end of the game should have been too. Like this.
And then you get to the and then the end of the. Now you're playing a Cal once again confronting Vader, now fully Darth Vader, and it just once again says survive. You cannot beat the Chosen One. It's not going to happen, and it's a perfect mirror. It's perfect bookend for the beginning and end of the game.
Yep.
I knew that wasn't going to happen. Didn't happen.
We've discussed this exact thing, having the end of the game be a Darth Vader survival sequence.
But I will say the Braca intro sequence, like that whole level was just godly.
Incredible. That's the best level in the game. Better than better than Kashyyyk. I'm sorry, that's the best level in the game.
There are a few standout missions for me, like the Braca intro mission, Kashyyyk's second mission, and then the Fortress. I'm really torn on because I love those three so much.
Yeah. I thought that bird left a lot to be desired, if I'm being honest with you.
The bird? Dude, I love the bird sequence on Kashyyyk. I thought it was incredible.
I love the bird, but it's just so passive.
Flying around, and it's like a Disney movie, and you're just like, it's very Star Wars in the way that that's very... A force-sensitive bird-like creature like that would respond to a force-sensitive Jedi, and especially if Cal saved it, then that was very plausible, and we've seen stuff like that in Star Wars, and so as it's happening, what I really appreciated about the second mission to Kashyyyk, and I told you this, was just how much they expanded on Kashyyyk.
We got to see the whole origin swamp. That's worried. Incredible.
I was worried with the E3 footage and the first level with Saw Gerrera because they were just boring parts of the planet that I could not have cared less to see.
Parts of the planet we've always seen.
I mean, not even. Just like boring ass forests. I mean, it was just awful. But then the second mission, man, oh my God, when you do go seek out and you do go up the massive tree and you do see the expanse of Kashyyyk the never-ending forest, and you do see all these deadly fauna and these deadly animals and these deadly creatures and an alien, natural plant-like being. It's just so great. The Venus flytrap, like things that are like spread out all over the
Yeah.
place, plants that seek you out, the little like bouncer plants. I mean, all the different spiders and different bug-like creatures that come for you. I mean, they did so much to expand on Kashyyyk. I mean, Kashyyyk in Jedi Fallen Order is just about better than Kashyyyk in its brief sequence in Revenge of the Sith, and that's saying a lot. I mean, when you're up on top of that big tree, man, and you are seeing the world, I could not believe how stunning the game was getting. I mean, because they just after that second mission to Zepho, man, they dialed set pieces and the skyboxes to 10,
Yeah.
and it was just unbelievable. And
Absolutely.
the fight with the ninth sister was kind of meh. I
It
didn't
was
really care
hard.
for it.
It was hard on. So Ross, now this is the thing, dude. This is why I like to play games on hard
Yeah,
mode. In hard mode, that fight was extremely intense.
I bet.
Ross, she
I
hits
bet.
you. She hits you with 6 attacks that are undodgeable, and you have to press the circle button at the perfect time, or your health is dropped in an instant. The fight against the ninth sister is probably the best lightsaber fight in the game because it is fair, it is stimulating, and it is
Yeah.
difficult. It's not like the
Yeah.
last Trilla fight where it's unfair and bullshit half the
Oh,
time.
we haven't even talked about Trilla.
But anyway, the ninth sister fight, phenomenal on hard mode.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal.
I did thoroughly enjoy it because it was also the first mission in which you feel prepared to face an Inquisitor, because now Cal has relearned a lot of his skills. He's remembered a lot. It's all come back to him. Now he's got the double-bladed saber. I mean,
Really hate the way they introduced the bladed saber. I feel like that should have been more of an event.
yeah, I think it could have been a more. I think they should have done it. Maybe they could have had Ilum earlier on
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I want to add as well, Ross, because we're talking about the Inquisitors. I think it's so strange that only 2 Inquisitors were stuck on this guy. Doesn't that feel
Right.
weird?
Where were the rest?
Right, like I feel like 2 more Inquisitors would have made more sense. I mean, this like I get it when you have the initial Baraka situation, have the two Inquisitors, but then as the story
Where's check it
progresses,
out.
dude, add more. I mean, geez, this guy
The
is
problem with the Inquisitors is that they've already kind of limited them how many they can use, because I think how high does it get? Like the eighth brother, and then like ninth sister,
yeah, but
and
you
then I
could
don't think it
show
goes any further than that. So we're like still limited to a certain set number of like under 20 Inquisitors.
but you can show the ones from Rebels and just have them not die.
Yeah.
Have
I
them be
mean, you can
vested in a
absolutely
fight.
step
Yeah.
in and be like, here's the eighth brother. He was, remember him from Rebels? He was alive and active, even just 5 years after Rots, Revenge of the Sith, rather. Um, yeah. So no, I mean, yeah, I get that. I think the still fun nonetheless. I thought the Purge Troopers would be a bit more challenging actually when I'm playing.
Yeah, the Purge Trooper that's the most difficult is the dual wield one, but you just freeze him and then hit him in the back, and he's not much of an issue.
Right.
The
Yeah,
one with
so
the
I mean,
axe is a joke. Speaking of Purge Troopers, the one with the axe is an absolute joke.
right.
I mean, dude, the blaster ones are harder than the one with the axe. All you have to do is roll behind him and hit him twice.
Yeah, it was the Purge Troopers with the staffs, and then the two smaller staffs that were a real pain.
I thought that the 2 smaller staffs were by far the hardest. The ones with the dual staff, like the full staff, I mean,
Yeah.
they kind of get you kind of get used to them. The hardest thing for me is the I don't know if you got this in story mode, but in hard mode too, just unblockable attacks snap to you even though you're well out of the way, and
yeah.
that also applies to blaster fire.
Yep.
So the Purge Troopers and then the Night Brothers with the bows that shoot stuff at you, I could roll out of the way after they've already shot off the thing, and it tracks to you, and it is the most annoying thing in the world.
Yeah. I got a lot of that, even in story mode. Obviously, with Trilla, but I mean,
that's one thing that Spider-Man never had. You know, because the action was so fast paced. The only thing that would lock onto you were the lock-on missiles, so it felt natural.
right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Dude, that bat creature thing on Dathomir was terrifying.
I love that that's the beast, that's the rite of passage. Isn't that incredible? We've heard about the beast of Dathomir, and we finally got to see it.
Wait, which one? There are a couple. There was a big one, Dark Disciple, it was called. But I think Quinlan Voss killed that thing.
Yeah.
So it couldn't have been that one.
No. But this is what's his name? Gorogara. They talk about the rite of passage being a giant monster, and they travel into his den, and that's why you see all of the dead Night Brothers in the den. So we know that at least this part of the planet, that this is the beast of legend.
Right. Yeah, dude. I mean, when that thing was flying, it, and obviously, Fallen Order gives you a second to prepare for boss fights. Like, you can always see a boss room before you enter it.
Right.
So when I saw how big that was, I was like, oh shit. And then it clicked. But dude, it's so big. I mean, like, you get such a sense of scale when you're down in there fighting it. I mean, there were two moments in Jedi Fallen Order where I was scared playing as Cal, running for my fucking Jedi life. And it was that, definitely that, and then Vader. Those are the only two moments in Fallen Order where my heart is racing, even on story mode, which is pathetic. But I mean, oh my god, what a set piece that becomes too.
Golly, when you're
speaking
jumping.
With Dathomir, the storyline with Dathomir is rough.
The lore behind it is so cool. That's what frustrates me so much. The idea of a fallen Jedi who goes to an alien world, is this ultra powerful being, goes to this alien world, subjugates the people, and manipulates the magic wielder to give him more power. That is incredible. But tell me this, Ross, if he does have access to magics, why didn't he use it during the boss fight? That was so frustrating. I wanted to see his hands glow.
Oh my god, I didn't even notice that. Yeah.
But the character is so compelling. That is so compelling.
The concept.
The concept. My bad. The concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the idea too, man. But listen, I was into Dathomir, right? Like, okay, it's a little bit of a stretch, and we've got a surviving Night Sister here who's like been screwing around and not doing much since the Clone Wars. Fine. And I'm really enjoying Dathomir, right? Because I'm fighting Night Brothers. I mean, and what's great is Dathomir's brighter, right? You're on a different part of Dathomir.
Oh yeah, the red sun is
not in the dark, deep forests where Mother Talzin resides. I mean, you are up on this mountain, and these Night Brothers live in this really cool village within the mountain. It looked phenomenal, something like right out of Temple of Doom. I mean, they're all imbued with the Night Sisters' magic. They sound right, the voice actors they got for all the side characters and great. There is no discrepancies with the voice acting, which I loved. So often now, especially in Rebels, a lot of the time, man, the voice actors they get for like stormtroopers or other side characters, awful, and just pull you out of it constantly. It was so bad. Not in Fallen Order, man. Every side character and everyone you see in the game, all the voice acting, I gotta say, all throughout Jedi Fallen Order is consistently fantastic. Whether I even like the characters or not. I mean, like Trilla, excellent performance. Didn't care for the character, but a fantastic performance. Same with this guy, even Malicos. The guy was really bringing it. There was just no story. And it's an odd thing, Tate, when you're watching actors really bring it and really do their best with no story. It's awkward. And yeah, man, I love that concept too. So then, like, as I'm really enjoying Dathomir and I'm fighting Nightmares and undead Night Sisters, and I'm freaking already scared running for my life on this planet. I mean, they've really captured Dathomir, and really make you feel afraid of this planet. And you don't feel like, when you're on Zeppo or Kashyyyk, you're at peace, right? You're okay. Like you're fighting, but there's something different about Dathomir. It's horrifying. And they captured that so well. And you feel unsettled and unnerved. And as I'm jumping across the broken bridge, heading for the temple, man, and then I just see this human in a black robe off to the left on the middle of this broken bridge. And I'm like, Tait, I told you at first, I was like, am I seeing? Like, is he there? I was like, oh, that's a guy. It just ended up like, who? What is this? It was just so dumb. And then he's putting on the Darth on that he did in Rebel. I'm like, what is this? It was so dumb. And then later on, man, when revealed that he's a survivor purge who just somehow wound up on Dathomir after surviving his attack from the clones, and then he started learning Night Sister magics, and now he's embracing the dark side and this and that and the other thing, and I'm like, who cares? I don't know who you are.
Show us, please.
And you're given no reason to dislike him either. He
I
doesn't
dislike him. Yeah, no, he doesn't do anything bad at all.
Like, oh God, he disagrees with how to use the Force. And oh man, he learned the Night Sister magics and he's up the Night Brothers, but why does she care?
What has he done against Turner?
Doing that is so bad. He's not oppressing the galaxy. The Night Brothers don't seem like they're that poor off. Like, they're fine.
They're living their little simple lives.
I mean, what? They don't give you a reason to hate this guy. But for whatever reason, you're supposed to care. For whatever reason, just because Marin has a problem, you're supposed to care. And it's like, yeah, I think he told some lies here and there, but he wasn't killing anyone. Right? He wasn't attacking anyone.
He's just a dickhead. That's it.
And I'm like, it was the most contrived, idiotic story I had ever. I mean, it's already bad enough that we've got so many surviving Jedi, and then they're doing this shit. I'm like, what is this game now? And dude, when it comes to the point where you have to have the final boss fight, I'm like, oh my God, this dude was an NPC that I didn't even know existed until like a mission ago. This guy was just some NPC off to the side, and now we're having this big emotional boss fight with this, spewing of dialogue about how times have changed, and I'm like, what the hell is going on with the story? Is just so bad. And I mean, it's like, dude, have him blow up the Mantis, have him wound Grease, do something,
dude,
to justify us caring.
That's why like with my how to fix the game story, throw it into a civil war. Have a full-on civil war brewing. The first thing you do is you see Malachus, and he has maybe 4 or 5 Night Brothers with him, and you get this huge fight at the beginning of the area, right? And you just escape, barely. You just barely escape. You run to the temple, do what you got to do. The Mantis is now off-world because if it stays on the planet, then Malachus will strike it down, and then he sees Cal at the temple. He comes to him after the Force vision of the Purge and says, "You're stronger than you realize." All this shit. Who cares? Just do something. The only character we actually see do something is Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
That's
pretty
it.
much, man. Pretty much. And Trilla, and I mean,
Trilla maybe, but she's only there because we need an antagonist. She's not very compelling, but at least she's doing her job. Right,
dude. What? Like, here's the thing about Dathomir that's already, dude. The Night Sisters, they're a mystery. Their magic is still a mystery. Yes, it's rooted in the dark side, but it's still a mystery. No one really knows how it works. It's always been this mysterious thing that's they're capable of doing anything with it. If they want to kill Count Dooku from across the galaxy, they can do it. I mean, it's crazy. If they want to bring Maul back from the brink of 10 years of insanity, do it. They want to raise undead zombies, do it. There's always this mystery behind the Dathomirian magics. And so it's like, you know what you do? Have the planet disagree with this rogue Jedi now turning, and then have the freaking planet start to cave in on itself because of him, because it's not right, because he's not one of them. Like, it's wrong, and the planet knows it. The planet is like ego in a sense, and it's alive to some extent. It's sentient. Just, there's so much you can do so easily with these stories and these characters. And it was just so trash, man. Everything. And so I was so glad when they actually made a character out of Marin, because I appreciated where the story at least came from, right? She was a child. She was very young, and I imagine and so she wasn't young enough to understand what was going on in the Clone Wars during the Massacre episode. And so she thought General Grievous was a Jedi, right? Armored warrior, wielding blue and green sabers, killing her sisters. She thought he was a Jedi as a kid, and still obviously no one told her otherwise, because all the sisters were wiped out, and then eventually Grievous did actually kill Tal. So that I thought was cool. But I could not believe how far south the freaking Dathomir storyline went. I was like, oh my god. And then, so I was really glad when Marin, for me, what made her character compelling, and why I think she's a better character than C or Trilla, is that they made her do something unexpected that caused her to challenge herself, that caused her to step outside of her bounds, that caused her to pursue a life that no one would have expected of her. And the thing about that is, that, and she's capable of it, right? She's a Night Sister and was trained in the ways of her fellow Night Sisters and knows their magics. So it's not like she's doing anything crazy, right? She's still a very real character and a real person. But I loved how they took a Night Sister and did something unorthodox. Whereas we've only had Ventress become a Night Sister that breaks off from the main clan and but this was a Night Sister voluntarily understanding the Jedi, not feeling manipulative towards them and wanting to control them or manipulate what she wants him to do, but she just has been alone with these Night Brothers for so long. She's genuinely having a change of heart, and she doesn't believe that her future is on this cold, dead, red, ancient, evil planet anymore. And she wants to pursue a different life. And now we've got a Night Sister leaving Dathomir to go join a Jedi on his quest. That was so cool. And so she instantly became a compelling character just with that character change. That doesn't forgive all the BS of what actually happens on Dathomir and the awful storyline. But that's an example of just how easily you can turn these characters around. And
it's not.
I would actually look forward to seeing where Marin's story goes, because now you have a Night Sister, wire, cloaking ships and doing her magics and calling upon Matalzin. That's cool. And yeah, man. So I appreciated at least that came of the awful Dathomir storyline, right? And yeah, but dude, as far as Trilla goes, I think they needed to completely rework Seer. I don't think Trilla should have existed. I think if they were prepared to handle the storyline, they should have had Trilla be Barriss.
Yeah.
Right?
And have Barriss.
And Barriss should have been a friend of Cal's, much like she was to Ahsoka. And he obviously heard about what happened at the temple, and then she totally lost it and became a freaking terrorist.
Yeah.
And that would have been great. But it's still, even though he knew what would have happened to it, and again, it's all hypothetical, assuming he was friends with Barriss, then you could have had him still be just as shocked that she's now an Inquisitor, and you still have that torment there between the characters.
Yes.
A best friend who did nothing wrong to her, and now a rogue Jedi lost it, killed innocent Jedi, killed innocent workers, attacked the Republic, and now, much like Vader, is willing to snuff out anyone from her past to seek out a new future of power and conquest. And
You know what I like more?
right there, you could have had a great storyline. But no.
No. We're not.
No. All we get is Seer telling us about what happened, telling us her Padawan died, and then we get to this random Bogano fight, and she just pulls her helmet off. Or no, it's the second Zepho fight. And she pulls off her helmet, and it's like, you're Trilla. And I'm like, oh, God.
Who cares?
Dude, it was so bad. And she's talking about how she knows Trilla, or no, she knows Seer, and she's practiced everything Seer has done and done it better, and Seer will betray you. I'm like, I don't know who you people are yet. I don't care about you people yet.
Ross,
And I have this big reveal scene, and then this big revelation of, oh, Seer's gonna betray you. She betrayed me, and it's like, I didn't see any of this. I don't know you. I don't know her. It was so bad. It just bypasses basic rules of writing.
It does.
I'm like,
So, okay.
It really aggravated me, man.
The story that I would have loved to see, my ideal story in the sense, is that George Paul looks like a very old, strong, wise Jedi. Very cool. What if Trilla is the first apprentice of Jar Paul?
That would have, they could have done something there.
Right, because then you have the dynamic of like almost an Anakin Obi-Wan situation. This is his first apprentice that he's closest in age to, that's more of a sister than a daughter, whereas Cal is very much a son to Jar Paul, right? So you have a dynamic between Cal and Trilla, where Trilla is like his older sister, the one he always looked up to, the one that he always wanted to be. Imagine seeing your older sister, Ross, rise against you. That would be world-shattering.
Mm-hmm.
If they had done that, and at the beginning of the game, when he's talking about his master dying and being on his own, he could have said, I received a transmission from my fellow, Judge Paul's first apprentice, Jedi Knight Trilla, whatever her last name is, and she's gone. She's dead too. I have nothing. I have absolutely nothing. Imagine learning that she's alive and learning that she is this dark side user.
Like, listen, man, I'm sorry. There is no excuse for how bad this story is.
No, there's not. It's so easy to fix. We're fixing it right now.
Sorry.
We're just two dickheads.
But this is not just nitpicking. No. This is incompetence. This is you have the wrong people at Respawn if these are the stories they intend to produce. I think even Titanfall 2 had more depth in its story.
Titanfall 2 is a great game.
I never got to play it all the way through myself. I only started it, but I mean,
it's a first-person shooter, so the story can only be as good as a first-person shooter story
right,
can
but
be.
I mean, the point is, man, Respawn has crafted an incredible game. Again, to reiterate, just a godsend of a game for us Star Wars fans. It is the definitive Jedi experience. Everything in the game is amazing, looks amazing, plays amazing, flows amazing. It is phenomenal. But this story, what the hell was this story? And one part of the story, though, that of course I have. This was the first moment in the game where I was just really, really engaged, truly emotionally and just very present in the sequence, right? Because, and not just because I was a Clone Wars fan, right? But because they were taking Order 66 and showing you another perspective, kind of going back to what we were talking about with the Mandalorian, where now we're seeing Order 66 from the perspective of a Jedi and his Padawan stuck inside a Venator.
That's insane, dude. Completely trapped, cut off from the outside world.
I mean, and I thought that was such a cool idea. Like, if we can't have the Jedi, this was the next best thing.
Absolutely,
and
I agree.
So I was blown away because, of course, it starts out as your average training. Then, oh man, there's a bolt, and I was like, oh, that was a clone. And then you get up there, you get up to him, and then you see the hologram come through, and then he just aims a blaster, and T'Pol has the presence of mind to whip out his double-bladed saber and cut him down first. And
really quick,
Can
we appreciate Gerard T'Pol's design as a character?
Oh,
He's
I love
badass.
it. Adds variety, and some people are bothered that he still has his early Clone Wars era armor on, but it actually adds realism, I think.
And yet, it looks
there's you can assume there's some depth to his character there, right? Where like he doesn't necessarily agree with having to take the armor off, and thinks that maybe you can assume that T'Pol thought that the galaxy needs to understand that they're at war, and that maybe him keeping the armor on was some kind of defiance. You know, like I think that there's so much that you can pull from T'Pol just by the little bits that we get.
What is the Basilisk Jedi that betrays during the Embarn arc?
Pong Krell.
Pong Krell. It's very similar to that. Very ham-fisted. Yeah. I'm wearing the armor because we need to see, or the world needs to see that we're still at war. I also want to appreciate Jar T'Pol uses a single-hilted, dual-wielded lightsaber. So it's not a saber staff. It is a single-hilted dual blade. You know, the single-handed one that we see in the comic books. Specifically the wrist shake maneuver to make the circular shield. I love that because it shows that he's an extremely physically powerful Jedi, and being an extremely skilled Jedi, you have no leverage in that design. So it's extremely unwieldy for weak and low skill level Jedi. So these small details build him up to this massive powerhouse.
Yeah. And dude, one thing that became very clear as the Order, you know, before you even get to that training room, man, they really put you not right back into Revenge of the Sith, right back into the headspace of the Clone Wars, because you're walking around on the Venator as a little Cal, and you're talking to clones, and they're all friends.
You give them a high five. You give the last one a high five.
You get the cold reminder of what happens when these chips go off, and I love that, man, because it really puts you right back in, or just how magical this would soon be. And so then, man, this is where I really appreciate the devs, because they used tracks from Revenge of the Sith. They weren't scared to do it. They weren't holding back. They wanted you to feel the same tragedy that you felt watching Revenge of the Sith and seeing Order 66 for the time. So what do, man? They get Anakin's betrayal, Anakin's dark deeds, they cue it up, and it plays through the whole sequence, culminating when you get to the end. And then as Gerald T'Pol, they're at the escape pods, and he's deflecting as many of the laser bolts as he can, and then he's getting blasted. Now he's getting shot, and you're like, oh man, he's already done for, but he's on his knees, and he uses the Force to hold up some clones, but then still gets blasted repeatedly again, and all the while, you know, you're hearing Anakin's dark deeds play in the background, and then they're knocked into the escape pod. And oh my God, as he's laying there on the ground and the soundtrack is building to its climax, just like Revenge of the Sith, and you just hear that incredible soundtrack playing over him saying, hold the line, wait for the council signal that you know never comes, and wait, this war is not over. And I mean, my God, what a powerful scene.
Jesus
I think that was the most powerful scene in the game.
That's the only powerful scene in the game, dude. Honestly, like story-wise, that is the best scene in the game. 100%.
And because you feel that. You feel it, not just in the way the scene is crafted, but from Cal's perspective. He has lived this sheltered life as a Jedi, essentially. An organized life, where he's been a Jedi Padawan. He's always had structure, and now suddenly everything is just suddenly going to hell, and then the clones have turned on him. He doesn't know what's going on. His master just got shot to death by all of his clone friends, and now he's being jettisoned onto an escape pod down to some cold, dark, desolate world. The kid looks like he looked like he was 12.
Dude.
I mean, that's shocking. That's dramatic, and they really did such a great thing. That man. I mean, I only hope that the Siege of Mandalore produce something as powerful for the culminating Order 66 sequence that we'll get for the end of the Clone Wars series.
Oh, dude. Oh, my God. I want to see Rex during 66 more than even Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Just rejecting that inhibitor chip.
Or maybe he doesn't, and then she has to get it out for him.
Yeah, right? Oh, my God. That would be incredible.
I think the opportunity there is to have Jesse is removed. They have to kill Jesse as well as a bunch of other 501st clones.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man. That'd be incredible.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think the one small detail they missed out on is they.
Ross, you cut out as soon as you said the one small detail.
The one. Okay, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one small detail is aboard.
Oh my God! Of course you cut out.
Oh, am I still cutting out?
Aboard
the Venator.
Okay.
They should have had, like, clone officers.
Yeah.
Someone like Admiral Lauren, an admiral, and other workers, and it would have made the Venator feel a bit more lovely. Because it was weird just having clones.
That's a minor nitpick compared to the other.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like, of all the nitpicks in Fallen Order, that is definitely. But I did notice it as a Clone Wars fan.
Right,
I noticed
of course.
But dude, oh man, what a scene! Just what a sequence! Just fantastic. Yeah, man. I mean, otherwise, I don't really have too much to add other than just taking us right to the final mission at the fortress, where they need to get the holocron back after Trilla takes it on Bogano. I was first of all surprised that it wasn't Mustafar. I thought we were going to head straight to Mustafar.
I would love that.
That was going to be the main Inquisition training facility. It was going to be like in Vader's castle. But I think Mustafar was like nearby. I think you could see it flying in. Like, I think it's actually it's like a neighboring planet right there. I have to watch it again. But dude, Tait, how inefficient is it to train Force side users underwater? Like, whose idea was it to have the base where we're going to break down Jedi and turn them into Inquisitors, where they're likely going to have Force eruptions? Let's do it underwater. What a great idea!
Right. Yeah. To puncture the walls.
Immediately, I was just so dumb about that. But that didn't take away from how much I love the mission. Around stormtroopers, working your way all the way in, getting to the Jojo, fighting purge troopers, going through those barracks, like you said. Just, it was visually stunning the whole way through.
Yeah. Oh my God! And then the Vader reveal was fucking excellent. I had to watch a cutscene on YouTube after the fact because of what I told you. The stupid flash bomb from Trilla's fight disrupted my cutscene. Speaking of Trilla's fight, dude, really not fair. Not fair at all. There were some attacks that were unblockable, but didn't flash red. Her stupid life drain attack kills you in one hit. You can't dodge it very easily. She has the flash bomb. She has the probe droid. It's so annoying.
Yeah. Dude, Trilla's entire final fight, like, it was unfair, and it was just not. Even on story mode, it was a pain.
Took me 2 hours on hard mode. Took me 2 hours.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not incompetent with video games. I played through Dark Souls 1 through 3. I played through Sekiro. I'm not incompetent when it comes to video games, especially in this vein. But oh my God, was this just unfair? I mean, dude.
Yeah. No, I mean, I will. One thing I got to point out though, man, is get to that bridge sequence, like before you actually get to that interrogation chamber. I remember, dude, I was just taking in the whole space and just looking around, like, yep, this is the final destination. Like, this just looked like an end of life scenario, like an end of the line. You have arrived at the final. Like, this was it. This was the end of Cal's life. He was gonna die in there. And when it starts making those sounds, like those like, I don't even know what to call them. It wasn't an alarm, but it was just like a. Do you remember that? It was like a. It was like a echoing, deep like sound.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was so eerie, Tate.
Yeah.
It just felt like there was a monster inside, and you had his, and so I mean, I charged in there, double. So it was kind of disappointing when I was like, oh yeah, I gotta, and wound up being the final fight game. But I've got to say, once you get through that final fight against Trilla, I sort of bought into the idea that she would turn. Like she didn't seem like she wanted to be an Inquisitor.
No.
It seemed like it was something that happened kind of fast.
Yeah.
And she was just mostly doing it just because she hated Seer. So when she kind of comes around a bit after being defeated by Cal, I was just so blown away by Vader's entrance, because once again they cue up Anakin's dark deeds.
Oh,
and he freezes her in stasis right there. And then you hear the breathing, you hear Anakin's dark deeds queuing up, and the smoke around. He's in, you can't see him quite yet, but he's finally there. He's arrived to end this story, and Cal and no one in this room is making it out alive. I was just so captured by I was just so immersed in what they were doing now, because I knew what was coming, right? At least I thought I did.
Right. I was just gonna say.
I thought that this was gonna, because they were. I mean,
if they were firing all cylinders, dude.
They were. They really were.
When you stand there next to Vader, I didn't even try. To attack him. I would never press square on Vader.
Oh yeah.
So I walked away, and then he just force pulled me in, grabbed me by the throat. I pulled the thing onto him. I thought while I was running across the bridge, he was just gonna grab me, and I was gonna fall down the shaft, and then have to fight him off.
And even before then, I really thought Cal was done, because he's like, you have failed. And then she just goes, avenge us. And then he slices Trilla down. He cuts her down. And I always love that, because I feel like you don't get enough of that in various stories where characters know they're about to die and they say their final words. Something quick and powerful, because they know they're done, right? And that was cool. I like that a lot.
I do want to add, Ross, I really felt like... I really thought there was going to be a set piece here, because I felt a little dissatisfied knowing that this was the end of the game. I really thought that Vader... I thought I was going to fall down that big shaft, because those bridges over the shaft. I thought I was going to fall down that and then end in a boiler room in this massive force fight against Vader.
Yeah, Vader like glided down with his cape and...
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, I agree. It wasn't as big of a set piece.
And then I just wanted on the top of the screen to put Darth Vader health bar.
But when he takes Seer and just tosses her, flicks her off into the pit below, I was like, oh man.
Can we talk
I appreciated that at first, because I was like, that is exactly how this goes down.
Yeah.
Vader doesn't care that Cal or Seer are the main characters. They are Jedi, not named Luke, Ezra, Kanan, or Ahsoka. And just like he flicked her off and she's gone. Dead. Yeah. That's it. That's all it took. Because she's not the one to save the galaxy. She's any other Jedi at the end of the day. And so I was like, oh man, they really took that part and just flicked her off. She's gone. So yeah, dude, like you said, when then you're just forced to confront Vader and you don't even get the health bar. I was like, I didn't even attack him.
No.
I didn't even attack. I was just standing there kind of frozen. And then when he grabs you in the middle and builds the track from Revenge of the Sith, the camera angle, and you just feel the grip and like the sudden stop of the camera as he's got you and he's choking Cal, and then you have to force pull the piping. He knocks you out of the room. He's just like holding out both hands and just tossing every bit of debris he can at you. There's effortless. Dude, I was terrified because at this point he just cut down Trilla and just tossed Seer into the pit like they didn't even matter. Exactly like I was expecting. This was the reality check that I was expecting from the story and how it was going to end. And I'm running for my life, running across the platforms, deflecting the Stormtrooper's laser bolts. Cal is about to die. He doesn't know it, but we know it. And I'm just afraid for this character who I've come to love. And then Vader's right there. He's right outside the elevator, and then he's stabbing the elevator doors and slicing through them. I mean, it was horrifying. And then you're running through the base, and you're in this underwater. You're trapped, man. Vader knows the base. You don't. You know, you're running, and I'm like, oh man, Cal, like he's not making it out of this like he thinks he is. And Tate, I guess I'll let you just talk about how they actually went about the scene because I was amazed.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, when you think of Darth Vader, what do you think about? Because as a Legends fan, I think about his kill count. That is in literally, I think it's in 4 or 5 million. Doesn't he kill like 4 or 5 million rebels in Legends continuity? Or something obscene like that? I mean, Vader literally crushes moons. That is how strong he is. He crushes moons.
Well, not in canon, he doesn't, but yeah.
Not in canon, right. But that'll always be Darth Vader to me and to many others.
Well, I mean, dude, even in canon, he's the guy who stood amongst an army of rebel soldiers, and they say you're surrounded. You are surrounded. All I am surrounded by is fear and dead men, and then kills all of them. So Vader is still that murderous powerhouse.
Yeah.
He is the Jedi killer.
He is the definitive Jedi killer. Okay, General Grievous was designed to kill Jedi. And what is Darth Vader? The perfected version of that. He is a machine. He is no longer a man. And that is what makes him so absolutely compelling. If you see Vader, you are dead. Just like if you see Batman, you are out cold. You know what I mean?
Right. Because
But
Yoda says in Return of the Jedi, the last of the Jedi will. It is already very problematic having Ezra out and alive somewhere in the unknown region, Ahsoka alive and surviving past Return of the Jedi. That's already a huge problem.
It's so frustrating to me. I didn't realize that Ahsoka and Ezra are alive post ROTJ. That frustrates me a lot, Ross. I mean, already we were told in episode 4 that or not in episode 4, but in episode 5 that Yoda and Obi-Wan were the only space wizards left, definitively. And all of that weight, all of those stakes have been thrown in the garbage.
Dude, it's disappointing because it's like they needed her. Where did Ahsoka go? Like, they better answer that question for why she disappeared for not 5, but 7 years. Because after that Rebels episode, when she walked back into the... She's gone. For the whole original trilogy. 7 years. Where did she go? And so again, yeah, I mean, Ahsoka and Ezra is already really... They're both already really problematic, but now... Vader confronts Cal at the end of the hallway, and then suddenly, Seer, when Vader is using Cal's own lightsaber to stab him in the shoulder or whatever, she jumps back from behind Vader, attacks him with Trilla's lightsaber, and they're both fighting, and he knocks the saber out of her hand or something, or breaks it or whatever, I forget what happens. And then she starts to use Force Crush on Vader.
Bullshit, Ross. That made me mad. This is Darth
I was like,
Vader.
Given no reason to expect Seer to be this powerful. I'm
Especially
like,
when she's disconnected from the Force. Last time we saw a Force user disconnected from the Force, who was it in Clone Wars that was quote unquote disconnected from the Force and just got completely slaughtered by like battle droids or something? I don't remember what that. Maybe that wasn't Clone Wars. Maybe that was a comic book. I don't remember what it was. But all I know is that when you're quote unquote disconnected from the Force, your powers are limited. You
I think it
are.
might have been Eve Koth.
Was it?
Eve Koth, like he went off to a backwater, and then eventually Vader still came and killed. Even though he wasn't a Jedi anymore, he was just a priest and just living his life.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about. That's exactly what I'm thinking about.
It was Eve Koth.
I thought he was shot down though. I don't know. I have a horrible memory. But anyway, when you're disconnected from the Force, you're not powerful anymore. You have nothing. I'm sorry, but that's
Luke
just
Skywalker, and you can force project yourself across the stars and then die.
But he never really was disconnected, though. I don't subscribe to that belief.
Mm.
But anyway, this is the most powerful Force user ever. Essentially, the one with the most potential, and then he's just being.
I'm glad that it didn't fully paralyze or even damage Vader, and he still stood up and started approaching away.
Yeah, but you know what's frustrating to me? Vader in this new canon, he like taunts his victims. He plays with his food, and that's not the Vader that we got in Legends. In Legends, he was ruthless and said nothing. He was a robot.
Right.
And I really feel like that's what
and Vader enticing her with the dark side. I'm like, what is like how much of this we have? I don't think Vader had no interest in actually, turning either of them to the dark side. He's going to kill them both and get the holocron.
Tell me how he just lets them swim away. Like Vader could have just force pulled them.
Dude, one thing I want to talk about it real quick is Seer's little force shield. Like, listen, man, I thought we were leaving the actual physical displays, like visual displays of the Force behind. I thought we were leaving those back in the old dramatic days where we're not in Force Unleashed. Like, I thought we were past that. So, I mean, it's already nuts that we can even see the Force in this Force field that she creates. I'm like, I thought we were done with that. Not that I mind.
It felt so
I personally don't care whether you can see the Force or not. But I thought that was just kind of odd.
Especially with her character. Especially with her whole character being, hey, I'm not a Jedi anymore. I'm weak now. Dude.
I'm not the same.
He should have just force choked her through that fucking force field and called it a day. It's Darth Vader.
Yeah, and so it's like, dude, Vader could have held back that water with one hand and then force pulled their asses back into the hallway with the other.
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
But this one
I thought that was dumb.
That's super dumb.
That was dumb.
Oh, and you know what was kind of insulting to me when BD1
took
shot
so long to swim away too. You're telling me they didn't have a gun on that base that they couldn't have just shot them with? Like, what? Are you kidding me? That's the one problem, man, with new canon, Jedi Purge era stories. They are now having these Jedi survive just using coincidence constantly. Like Ezra. Oh, Ahsoka arrives, and so Ezra and Kanan are able to get away. And then, Ahsoka, time travel is invented, and Ezra pulls her into a few years later. With Cal and it's like Seer gets knocked into a lava pit, she's fine. But then they escape because they use water against. I'm like, what is this? What are we doing? Like they should have died. And so then a lot of people are like, oh, well, there's gonna be a sequel. And I'm like, what sequel? They take the holocron back aboard the Mantis. Cal makes it very clear, despite whatever they say, oh, the next generation of Jedi, we're gonna change their lives. Cut the holocron. Jedi the order has fallen, right? It's not coming back, and Cal's not bringing it back. There is no sequel. What is the sequel? What are they going to call it? Is it going to be Jedi: Rebellion, where it's just Cal going and finding Mon Mothma and Bail and meeting up with the rebellion, and then eventually getting killed? What is the sequel now? Because it's not going to be about rebuilding the Jedi. Like, this is a problem. We've now got 2 more Jedi alive and well. And so all I got to say, dude, is Cal and Seer need to both be dead. Like, at least 2 years before Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
Because when Kanan reveals himself, it kind of jostles the Empire and shocks them a bit because it seems like once again the galaxy hasn't seen a Jedi in a little and so I think they need at least 2 years where there are no Jedi, and to make Kanan's reveal kind of make sense. And so yeah, dude, I think Cal should not be alive for too much longer. He's a Jedi. Listen, man, I love Cal. I love the character, the story, but he should die. He needs to die. He needs to sacrifice himself. And I thought this was going to be a one and done game where they actually do it. And if they want to do a sequel, fine. But they just killed the potential for a sequel right at the friggin' end, final scene. So it's very confusing and very disappointing.
A sequel doesn't have to be the same character and the same story. A sequel could be in between episodes 6 and 7. A sequel could be in between episodes 4 and 5. A sequel can be anywhere. It could be with anyone. Right? It's just so frustrating that they don't have any balls. They don't have balls to write an interesting story. They play extremely safe with this game. They give us a nothing story with a nothing conclusion. And what's frustrating is that it's still a wonderful game that I can't help but recommend because the gameplay is just so good.
Once again, and maybe we haven't said it enough, it is a wonderful game. I mean, it's got, again, like Tait just said, nothing story. Shallow, nothing, dysfunctional story. But oh my God, the game itself, Cal and just the BD1 and the game itself, the worlds, I mean,
honestly,
the NPCs,
even
the difficulty, incredible.
The chatter between like BD1 and Cal is great. They're friends and they treat each other thusly. You know, they quip at each other, they have fun, their dynamic is great. So that's like the only part of the story that I really like is their dynamic.
Oh, dude, I thought Vader was going to crush BD1 in that whole...
Oh, my God. Yeah, dude, when he was shocking his neck. I mean, why did they do it for Rogue One, but they can't do it for this game? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Dude, imagine BD1 shocking his neck. He just grabs him and crushes him, throws him aside. Right. Jesus. That's Darth Vader.
I don't even like that BD1 was able to get that far. I don't even like that Cal was able to singe Vader's side. I was like...
Oh, I hated that. Dude, Vader crushes a moon, okay? I'm going to keep saying it. There's a Legends book where he crushes a fucking moon. Can we talk? That's Superman level of incredible. Vader is Superman.
Yeah, even in canon. I mean, he's not crushing canon, but still, he's the unstoppable Jedi killer. And for 20 years, that is what he went around doing. Oppressing the galaxy, oppressing the innocent, and killing Jedi. Thoroughly and efficiently. The Inquisitors couldn't do it. He came in and did it like it was nothing. Okay, and
yeah, we have Kanan, we have Ezra, we have Cal, we have Seer, we have Ahsoka, and Ahsoka I'll give a pass to. But we have
at least Kanan died before the original trilogy.
Right. We have 4 Jedi that faced Vader and lived. That discounts him entirely.
Yep, that's exactly the point that you cannot do this to Vader.
No.
The next time a Jedi shows up, he better kill the next few Jedi that we see Vader encounter. Enough is enough.
God. Okay, so even in the Vader book, when he was getting used to being Vader, right? It was excusable. But you know the one Jedi that had gray skin and looked like he was born in California with a man bun and everything? What's that Jedi's name?
Wait, where did they appear?
In the Vader comic.
Oh yeah, I forget his name, but he was like the Vader Sith. You got the Kyber crystal and bleed it.
Exactly, but that Jedi specifically was extremely like in tune with the Force. It was one of Vader's earliest kills. It was something that was it was a new experience for Vader, but in this game, we see a fully fledged Vader. There's no excuse this time.
No. So again, incredible ride.
Absolutely.
An amazing game. Respawn should be proud of what they've built here. They shouldn't be proud of... But as far as the game itself, Every Star Wars fan needs to play Jedi. It is a ton of fun and everything that I think you could want. Not from a story perspective, but from a gameplay perspective. Again, it plays incredibly well. Cal is a serviceable, functional, good character. Pretty much everything I wanted Ezra to be.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, dude. Cal is a better Ezra.
And
oh,
and the worlds and everything. It is divine to play through. Again, it is just a perfect Star Wars experience. It is not a perfect Star Wars story.
I want to include before we wrap up.
You can't have the amazing, gorgeous, fun, incredible game without unfortunately carrying the baggage of the shit story.
Yeah.
But again, don't think about the story. Just play it. Have a good time. It is a long game, at least 20 hours, which is very surprising again.
Yeah.
So,
real quick before we wrap up here, I wanna bring up one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Ross, in a lot of these games, there's a meter that fills, and when you click the two thumbsticks together, you unlock a 10-second God mode, where like you just storm through everything. I felt so dissatisfied that Cal did not embrace the dark side even a little bit, especially on Dathomir.
Well, you saw a Force Vision where he might turn into. That's what I'm sure they.
Jeez, but I mean, dude, imagine a more gray protagonist, one that understands the Force really does, who really trusts in the Force, because that's what Jar T'Pol was kind of making me feel like. Whenever he says trust in the Force is not all light side, right? If Cal trusted in the dark side and we got some of that as well, I would have felt extremely satisfied. I mean, I do as is, but imagine, dude, having a full dark side pantheon of abilities.
Right.
That would have been incredible. That would have made it the perfect Star Wars experience gameplay-wise.
Yeah. Well, on that note...
That was a 3-hour conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's how long it takes to fully and thoroughly cover an entire 20-hour game.
Right.
So that was good, dude. Good show. Anybody who's still here, thank you for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed Fallen Order as well. Clearly, if you're still here, you played it. And Ross, will you be making you-know-who from The Mandalorian? Yeah, probably at some point. For sure.
I'll make a Lego you-know-who from The Mandalorian. Not a Lego you-know-who. I'll make a Play-Doh you-know-who from The Mandalorian. A little tiny one. Yeah. A little tiny minifigure scale. Ross.
All right. Well, on that note, that concludes our longest podcast since our endgame review. So, I don't really count the E3 one. So, That'll do it. Until next time, when we'll be back covering Mandalorian episode 4, and it should be a good time. And I'll see you guys there.
Before we leave, let's talk about Google Stadia for a second.
Google what?
So Google released their video game streaming service this week called Google Stadia, and it is a trash fire.
I don't know anything about this.
So essentially, Ross, imagine being able to stream games online, but you have to pay a subscription fee. So you have to pay $100 a year to stream games online.
PS Now?
Exactly like PS Now. Except, PS Now, you get access to 2,000 games for that $100 a year.
Right.
$100 a year is your buy-in. And from that, you have to spend $60 on each game. $60 on games that are only $15 on PlayStation. All just to stream them and to have horrible latency issues. Doesn't that sound great, Ross?
Can you repeat that? That's on Stadia?
Yep.
Jeez.
So Stadia, you have the Tomb Raider games. All three of the modern ones. And they're all $60. When I can get all three for $30 on my PlayStation. Or maybe $40 on my PlayStation. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which came out last year, I can get for $20 on my PlayStation.
So wait, it's $100 a year and then you still have to pay $60?
Yep.
So what even is that? That's not even a streaming service at that point. That's just an extra fee and an additional menu screen.
Exactly. Or you spend $400 on a console one time and get way reduced prices on both games.
That's funny.
Why would so you remember PS Now? There were latency issues.
I guess sometimes Google's just like, we want to lose money.
Yep. But you remember PlayStation Now how it had those minor latency issues, and when I say minor, I mean pretty minor. Stadia is like
yeah.
Stadia is like 4 times worse. Like the games chug.
Mm.
All because they market it as you don't need a console. Well, why not? I want a console so I can actually play my games.
Sure.
And then also to round off the episode, the Cybertruck, the Tesla Cybertruck.
We're talking about that.
We have to. We have to. I mean,
yeah, I saw that. I mean, it. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everybody else has said. It's clearly designed for them to enter a market that has pretty much been previously undisturbed for decades. If anybody has wanted a truck, they just buy a Ford F-150 and
call it a day.
I mean, yeah, dude, breaking into the truck. I mean, yeah, like something jarring and crazy like this, I think was pretty much the only way for them to make their mark. And hey, man,
I appreciate it.
If I could and I wanted a truck, I'd freaking buy it.
So let me tell you this.
Why not?
There's one distinct flaw about the Cybertruck. So I do work at a pottery shop. Ross, you know that. I don't know if the viewers know that. Mm-hmm. And we use a truck every day. That's how we deliver clients our pottery. The most distinct issue about the Cybertruck is the walls on the truck bed. If you look at the shape, you see walls where the truck bed is, as opposed to just being a flat bed. You know,
there's no curve either at all.
Right, which would make it very unwieldy, but at the same time, dude, a fully electric truck, the back sleeve, the bed cover is a solar panel. If you spend like $5,000 more, you can charge your truck on the road while you're driving. It's a fully electric car. It has like 16. How much ground clearance does it have? I don't remember, but it's pretty high off the ground. It's strong. It's a completely steel frame. It's an exoskeleton, not a chassis and a shell. So you have more reliability and strength there.
Sure.
Dude, I really like it. I really like it, dude.
It looks like fun, man. I mean, you know, I think that it definitely does look like a low poly ES. It's a DeLorean, man. It's a real life DeLorean.
Yeah.
And if you've got the money, but on that note, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, dude. All right, cool.
We're done. We're out of here.
We're out of here.
All right. Until next week, everybody. Thank you for joining in. It has been a great time. Linda, thank you for joining in. Doom here, and Ian, and Camo Clone 134, the Ninja 220, and everybody who has been with us at some point over the last 3 hours. It's been a great time. All right, guys.
Thanks so much for watching. And remember, what's a Star Wars closing line we can use? Because now we're Star Wars Euphoria.
This is the way.
This is the way. And remember, guys, this is the way. Thank you so much for watching.